Wednesday afternoon. Welcome into 580 Sports Talk.
It's a great day to be on 580 Sports Talk, isn't it, folks?
That sound you're hearing, that loud sound, if you are west of Douglas County, or if you are east of Douglas County, you're hearing it from both sides. That's the sound of hooping and hollering and happiness. If you are outside of that area, there's a good chance that you are not happy with what occurred today.
Listen, I'm going to call my shot here. Now that we have further proof that Kansas men's varsity basketball was a victim. Can we get some Pitbull? Can we get a little Don't Stop the Party here? This is a great day.
Not a full victim.
Not a full victim because we got to take down the Final Four banner. But other than that, victimized.
We have this for proof of victimization.
I say y'all having a good time out there.
And we have this for the banner coming down.
I wish you would step back from that ledge, my friend.
You know what, though? You want to say KU didn't play in that Final Four? That's vacated. My good pal Cuppy, the Reese's Cup, knows I was there, and I got the pictures to prove it.
Yep, I was there. You know what you can't delete?
History.
You can't delete my tweets, my memories.
Yeah.
The air check of when we did the show live from the stands at the Alamo Dome.
During the Reese's College All-Star game.
Yep. Yeah.
No, this is a freaking great day for KU, man.
Yeah, we got a lot to get to. We'll break down the nuts and bolts of the IARP's final resolution. We will get to a little Chiefs news. We'll have some fun with just how long it's been since the Broncos beat the Chiefs. We will get to that. We're going to talk a little K-State football. A lot to get to. Both the IARP is supposed to have a press conference, and Bill Self and Travis Goff are supposed to speak today. We'll get to that audio as well today here on 580 Sports Talk. Let me know your thoughts out there in the sports world. If you are a K-State fan, or if you're an Oklahoma State fan, Mike.
That is the only person I have sympathy for, is you, Oklahoma State fan. No one else.
The critical difference, of course, being that Oklahoma State's case was heard by the NCAA's Committee on Infraction, while the IARP was a separate body who apparently looked at the NCAA's rules and regulations and said, you know what, these are kind of silly, and adjudicated appropriately.
So hit us up on our text line, 785-272-9429. Let us know your thoughts on our text line. Also go to our YouTube page, hit us up in the comments, youtube.com, and then go to 580 Sports Talk, hit the subscribe button. It is really simple and really easy. So we will start with the biggest news of the day that was dropped at about 1:15 today. And
shocking that the IARP was late.
Yes. So what this is this was stemming from the FBI investigation, wiretapping a bunch of bagmen and assistant coaches, if you will. And for specifically KU, this involved Billy Preston and, most importantly, Silvio De Sousa, in which Bill Self and Curtis Townsend are on the wiretaps and everything. Well, it went on and on and on. And what happened was the NCAA, Mark Emmert and his just tremendous wisdom, put together a separate entity to handle this instead of the NCAA. They thought, what if we give this to a neutral, an independent, right? Committee, and which is what the IARP was. And they were going to do it because it was going to be non-NCAA people. It was going to be people who could look at this from an unbiased situation. And it took like 9,000 years, but it finally came to fruition. And the results are no postseason ban, no scholarship reduction, no recruiting restrictions,
other than the ones that were.
I'll get to that. I'll get to that. No I'm talking about what was released today.
Okay.
Got it. No recruiting restrictions, no show cause penalty. And for those of you who don't know what a show cause penalty is, basically you can't recruit. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no show cause penalty for Bill Self, No show cause penalty for Curtis Townsend. None of that. They got 3 years probation when it comes to future punishment, right? Future punishment is, you have to pay a fine, you'd have to, recruiting restrictions, scholarships, all that kind of stuff. Now they will have to vacate the wins that any individual that was a part of this process in this situation was Silvio De Sousa. He did play in the year of 2017, 2018. Well, not 2017, 2018. And he was anything involved in that, going to have to be vacated. The wins and the Final Four banner. Now, that is according to NCAA rules that they are going to have to remove it from the record book. Now, technically, can KU leave it up in the rafters?
Yeah, what are they going to do?
What are they going to do?
Yeah.
I don't know. Now,
you want to send Charlie Baker out here? Have him pull it down? Go for it. Invite him out.
And so KU might just say, fine, we just want this all done. And they might go up there and, undo the threading, if you will, on the Final Four banners. Because let's be honest, KU fans don't really care a whole lot about Final Four banners. They care more about, the ones that are in the, the east wing, or no, the north side of Allen Fieldhouse. No, the east side. Yeah, the east side of Allen Fieldhouse, where it's got the national championship banner. That's what matters most.
Yeah.
So
that softens the blow.
Yeah, it really does. It really, really does. So that is what has come down today, that there's no future punishment at all for KU outside of the probation, which can be a big deal, because if you screw up now, when you screw up on probation, the penalties are stiffer because, you're on double secret probation. You get on, it's just kind of like if you get a prior something else, if you get,
Sure.
You get caught doing something and then you do something again, well, that, compounds it, if you will. So that is what has occurred today. I do wonder. No one should be surprised at what has came today, because all of the cases of the IARP were very, very minimal. And every single basketball insider has basically said, don't expect the hammer to be brought down. Now, I do wonder how much the self-imposed penalties that KU did last year. I think KU did the smart thing by not going to the NCAA, because the NCAA has got a bias. The NCAA wants to stick it to you. The NCAA is like, we are so strong, and we're grinding in, and we're digging our heels in. Whereas KU very smartly fought the NCAA and said, no, bring it. And that's when the NCAA moved to the IARP. Well, anybody with a brain could realize that, we get this on a neutral committee. The neutral committee is going to look at this and be like, yeah, this really isn't that terrible. Not that bad. I think Gary Parrish related it to like the municipal court system, right? Where, if you get somebody who's got a history of wanting to stick it to you, like the NCAA, or you've got this kind of neutral, more so a little bit lenient, hey, you know what? It doesn't really affect the program right now. Let's just move on. All that kind of situation. Then, yeah, we're going to go that route. So smart by KU to do this. Smart by Louisville to do this. I feel bad by saying this for Oklahoma State, because they did what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to,
cooperate.
You're supposed to be nice, and you're supposed to do everything the right way. We messed up. We'll take on our own. Well, unfortunately, that is the vacuum world. We live in the real world. And to be honest with you, Oklahoma State, your leadership made a wrong decision. Your leadership should have done what every other leadership outside of Oklahoma State did. And I'm bringing this up because Oklahoma State got a postseason ban. They were not allowed to go to the postseason that year, in which they would have went to the NCAA tournament. That was the year that they had Cunningham.
Yeah, Cade Cunningham. Yeah.
Really, really good.
Well, they played in the NCAA tournament with Cade Cunningham. It was the year after.
Or year after. Okay.
Yeah. Cade went to the tournament.
So the overall aspect of this is two things for me. One, how much of the punishment did KU give out the last year help to soften the blow and say, you know what, Bill Self? Because everybody's like, they got nothing. Well, technically, it's not nothing.
Self and Townsend each got suspensions and were taken off the road during a critical recruiting period.
Yeah, so it's not nothing. But I think KU, again, smart leadership, thought, what if we do this right now? What if we say 4 games here, 4 games here? We'll take a little bit of the brunt of it. The IARP will look at it like, you know what? They've already done their punishment. Let's just go with the probation. And here's the thing. If you're going to go by the letter of the law, even the NCAA, I don't care if you're NCAA or IARP, don't care.
Mm-hmm.
The vacating wins and taking down the banner is what should happen. It should. You played an ineligible guy. It is on record that you gave Silvio De Sousa money. That is not allowed. Not allowed. Okay? That should be taken down. Like, if those weren't taken out, I'd be like, I mean, I'm not going to be too upset if it wasn't. But I don't think a KU fan should be like, oh, my gosh, that is utter BS that we got those wins vacated and a Final Four banner taken down. No.
It's a dumb punishment, but it's precedent.
It's precedent. It's what has
You
happened.
used an ineligible player. When you have a player, you use an eligible
That's what they
player
do.
at every level. That's high school, that's college, it's anywhere. You use the player's not eligible.
So I have
You
no
don't get to
problem
count
with
those
that.
wins,
I have no problem with that. If I am a KU fan, the biggest relief is that there is nothing coming to this current team, which to me, I am all about the players. To me, you shouldn't punish the players for something that happened 6 years ago.
And clearly the IARP agreed because,
the only way that I can say if you are a K-State fan, because there are plenty of K-State fans right now that are not happy that they got just the self-imposed penalties last year, which honestly didn't amount to a whole lot. Still recruited really well and everything, which again, smart by KU leadership. You know, we got to credit the KU leadership here. Is the only people that are still around who was part of this was Bill Self and Curtis Townsend. And they were on record saying, you know, we got to do this. We got to do this. If you are upset that they didn't get more punishment, I can understand that. But if you are upset that they didn't get any punishment for a postseason ban or scholarships or anything like that, you should always punish the people who were responsible for it, not the ones currently. And that's why if there was any punishment that was going to be much stronger than this, it should have gone to 2 guys, Bill Self and Curtis Townsend. That's it. No scholar. Oh yeah. Well, let's punish KU by keeping money away from kids. Yeah, here's free scholarship money. Let's keep them away from that. Oh yeah, because postseason ban, all these kids who had really a big impact when they were in middle school at the time, elementary school at the time. Like the freshmen right now would have been in elementary school. Makes no sense whatsoever to punish them. So that is the only way that I look at. If you wanted a little bit more punishment for Townsend or Self, I can hear that argument. But I also look at it this way, that if you're going to get upset at this situation, get upset at the NCAA, because they're the ones overseeing all this. It's kind of like the whole situation. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Like, hate the system. Hate the NCAA, which has no teeth, no credibility. They handled this so poorly. It's 7 years later that this is going, 6 years later that this is going down. People just don't care about it anymore. They just don't.
Nope.
That's the thing. If you want to get upset at the NCAA for dragging this along, having a poor situation. And honestly, right now, we won't have to worry about this anymore because all this is now above board. It's NIL is above board for most of the part of it. I understand there's still going to be a little, under the table situations. But that's why I'm not going to be all, up in arms that they got no punishment, no nothing like this. Get mad at the NCAA over anything.
Would it be instructive perhaps to hear what the violations at the end of the day were? Because this is from the press release. The IARP, which the Independent Accountability Resolution Process. If you Google IARP, something else comes up first, but it's the Independent Accountability Resolution Process. They're holding their press conference right now. This is what their press release said. that the hearing panel concluded that apparel company outside consultant, that's TJ Gasnola, right? We all know who that is, was a representative of Kansas's athletic interests beginning August 9th, 2017. His actions after he became a representative of athletics interests resulted in 2 violations in the men's basketball program. Additionally, the hearing panel also found a violation for the institution related to representative of athletics interests number 1. The hearing panel found no credible and persuasive information in the case record to support allegations that KU failed to cooperate, lacked institutional control, and failed to monitor its men's basketball program. Those were the heavy allegations, right? There were 5 level 1 allegations.
The worst of the worst.
The worst of the worst. Of the 6 schools that had their cases overseen by the IARP, nobody had 5 level 1 violations, just Kansas. What they ended up essentially finding were 2 level 2 and 2 level 3 violations. The level 2 violations were this. The institution was responsible for actions of apparel company outside consultant Gasnola when he arranged to provide $4,000 in extra benefits to the mother of men's basketball prospective student athlete number 2, a level 2 violation. The institution was responsible for actions of TJ Gasnola when he provided a $2,500 cash recruiting inducement during the first half of September 2017 to the guardian for men's basketball student athlete number 1. Believe that's DeSosa.
Yeah.
Number 2 is Billy Preston.
Number 2 is Preston. Yeah.
Yes. In an effort to secure the student athlete's enrollment at Kansas, the hearing panel found this to be a level 2 violation. The institution was responsible for the actions of representative of athletics interests number 1 when in 2016 he provided approximately $200 in cash to a men's basketball student athlete during a barbecue at Bill Self's house. It's a level 3 violation. Apparel company outside consultant had impermissible recruiting contact with the guardian for Silvio DeSosa when he discussed with the guardian for DeSosa the provision of used athletics gear for a non-scholastic basketball team. That was all really well documented when this all broke.
Yes.
That Gasnola was going to give DeSosa's guardian some gear for his AAU team. That was found to be a level 3 violation. So those were the things that were found and could be proven, and that Kansas was punished on that basis. 2 level 2 violations, 2 level 3 violations, a grand total of $6,700 changing hands. And in ways that in the NIL era are not exactly frowned upon. Like the idea that an athlete would get money from a shoe company.
Jalen Daniels literally has a deal with Adidas.
Yeah.
Like, they can just I know it's football, but they can just give him money and say, oh, yes, NIL.
And yes, that was against the rules then. It's not really against the rules now. $200. If you think that there should be significant penalties for $200 in cash being given to somebody at a barbecue, I don't know. Do you want these kids to starve? Do you want to be broke? You just want to keep them broke? I have trouble. I have trouble getting up in arms about a $200 cash payment. I have trouble thinking that that's worth years of postseason bans and things of that nature. So those are the facts of the case. That's what was found. That's how Kansas was punished. 2 level 2s, 2 level 3s. And at the end of the day, a 4-game suspension, the recruiting restrictions from last year, the banner coming down, all of that. That all stems from what was found, not what was alleged. What was alleged was really, really bad. They couldn't find anything to sustain the allegations of level 1 violations.
And that's always been the whole thing, right? Is I heard it for literally for years that, oh, they're cheating. Of course they're doing this. Of course they're doing that. I mean, realistically, if you pay attention to college basketball, shady stuff happens. No one is under the guise that everything is all clean. You got to prove it, though. Got to prove it. And if you can't.
That was the biggest thing about Bill Self and Curtis Townsend being on the wiretaps was plausible deniability. They never, ever said on the phone, we're going to do this, and this, right?
Yeah.
Bill Self on the phone is we got to go find some guys.
Yeah. It was always just vague enough that you could deny it. The other thing, too, I should note real quick here, KU, and you mentioned good leadership here, how they've navigated the entire thing. It was deny for forever. And then all of a sudden it was, all right, well, maybe we'll suspend them for 4 games. And we'll, fine, we'll do that. We'll impose some recruiting sanctions. That is different from another team that has been in the middle of all of this. Remember who said they were going to give a player a strong-ass offer? Remember who that was?
Will Wade.
Will Wade at LSU. You know what he did during the IARP investigation? Regularly obstructed it, provided false statements, and failed to report a threat from a former fiance that she was going to expose what he had done.
Yeah.
He was covering up. He was lying. He was obstructing. He is now not at LSU anymore. Where's he? McNeese or something?
Yeah, McNeese State. Yeah, they hired him last year.
Yeah, and he's got a show cause too. KU, they kind of middled their bet here, right? Like they bet one side of it, and the score changed, and they bet the other side of it, and it ended up working out about as well as you could hope for. I mean, if you're a KU fan, I've been messing around on Twitter today with the banner coming down and stuff, but in the long run, hey, KU won a national title 2 years ago, so that softens any other sort of blow that comes from 2018. You're not going to get your memory wiped like in Men in Black. You know, Will Smith's not going to show up at your door with a little
neuralizer.
Yeah, and you're not going to forget about it. I wore my Final Four San Antonio t-shirt, I think yesterday or 2 days ago. Like we were there. We remember it. You don't have to forget about it. In the long run, does it really matter? No.
If a lot of people on our text line are very, very upset at this.
And upset in two directions. I mean, we've got both sides here from the 785. Don't punish the players except the ones on the 2018 team that just had their record stripped. This is dumb and shouldn't be happening. All things considered, kind of meh, but very sad. Also from the 785, university is dirty. NCAA dirty. Cheating has no consequences. NIL got their way. Crime is legal.
Yeah.
The NIL is crime?
It's not crime. It's actually very, very legal. Here's what I'll say.
Very good.
I'll say this one more.
NIL is good. Like undeniably, irrevocably good.
I will say this. No question. If you are upset at this ruling, get upset at the NCAA, because the NCAA said we're going to let another committee do this. If the NCAA said no, we are going to do this ourselves, this punishment would have been stronger.
And there is a reason why it is going away. There is a reason why the IARP will be disbanding after today.
Yes, they're doing their press conference and then they're closing the doors.
Are we surprised? The NCAA, because remember the whole thing when this IARP was first constructed and they were first moving a handful of cases over to it as opposed to the NCAA Committee on Infractions was it is final. There is no appeal process. There is none of that. NCAA bylaws indicate you can appeal. Hell, you can appeal a whole lot if you want. Even when they say you're out of appeals, you know what? You just keep appealing. That's what North Carolina did, right? And they ended up just saying, well, our degrees aren't worth much, but we're clean. And they're like, well,
yes,
I guess you're right. Yeah.
We've devalued our status as an educational institution, but our basketball team gets to keep playing in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
And you just keep appealing. This was supposed to be, no, we're going to bring in independent committee members, and then there's absolutely no appeal process. And guess what? Even people who are only partially independent of the NCAA, because the NCAA put these people on the committee, they still chose who was there. Even being slightly outside of the NCAA's purview, it becomes very obvious, well, you guys are idiots. Like, you guys are dumb. And these penalties and punishments are dumb. And it is a good thing, just like it was a good thing for Arizona or North Carolina State or whoever else. Like you said earlier, the guys on the team right now didn't do anything.
They did nothing.
What did Hunter Dickinson do? Nothing. What did KJ Adams do? KJ Adams was like 14 when this all happened.
If you wanted to punish Curtis Townsend because he was doing some illegal stuff, yes.
I'm a little surprised they didn't, to be honest with you.
Go for that. If you want to punish Bill Self, now the question is, theoretically, and how it worked, they did get punished. What they got punished was 4 games last year plus recruiting time, 4 games for Self plus recruiting time. Is that right there enough of a punishment for what they did? That is really the crux of all of this right now, is if KU didn't do that last year and they just got probation, I would be on the side of, yeah, man, KU, they really did get off scot-free. There was punishment last year. They weren't allowed to recruit. They weren't allowed to coach. Now, if you want to say, well, Jake, the first 4 games of the year was against, who's who and Directional University and wherever, whatever, then yes, we can always talk. Just like Jim Harbaugh, his first, 3 games this year for Michigan, they didn't coach.
UNLV, Bowling Green.
Yeah, and Directional Carolina. Like that's how that kind of works, and the recruiting aspect. So it's not scot-free. So I will say that everybody's like, oh, well, they got no punishment at all. There was some punishment. They did serve some punishment. You just wanted it to be more punishment.
Right.
You wanted them to cripple the university.
There are clear partisan lines that are very obviously drawn when it comes to the reaction to this. But yeah, at the end, what we had was 2 level 2 violations and 2 level 3 violations. Had there been at the end, the IARP said, yeah, we found 5 level 1 violations. Holy crap. Bill Self might be out of a job this afternoon.
Yeah, he would be. But they didn't find that.
This is not what they were able to prove.
Yeah. So I have actually no issues at all with what went down. An ineligible player played. You get your banner taken down. That's just the way how the NCAA works. Now KU is number 2 behind Kentucky in wins. Shout out to Big Blue Nation. You haven't been good for a couple of years. Now you're back at number 1 by I think 5 wins, I think is what it is.
Rick Barnes is now ahead of Bill Self in career wins, I believe. Bill Self loses Bill Self and the Kansas program loses 15 wins in total. Silvio De Sosa appeared in 20 games in 2018. KU was 15-5 in those games. They won the Big 12 tournament championship and went to the Final Four. Those, I presume, will be vacated as well. The Big 12 championship, regular season championship, I assume would be vacated. In addition, Silvio De Sosa debuted in a home game against Kansas State. So Bruce Weber has a win at Allen Fieldhouse.
There we go. How about that?
Technically, it's just a non-loss, right?
Okay, correction. Bruce Weber has a non-loss
there we go.
at Allen Fieldhouse.
I want to clear one more thing up before you get a quick timeout. From the text line, a player who was cleared not once but twice played. At the time they were cleared, there was new evidence that was brought into a situation that then changed it. Therefore, he was ruled ineligible.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, like DNA now, kind of a big deal. Hey, there's nothing going on back then. And now it's like, oh my gosh, we found out that this person was there because his DNA is all over the place. It's like new info.
Yes,
new info.
Like the Big Lebowski. New stuff has come to light.
Yeah.
Man.
So that's the reason why. Yeah.
Yeah. And
you were cleared. It's kind of like, what do you want to call it? The on Maury, like you are not the father. It's like, oh, well, you were with her. Oh, you seemed good. Oh, it turns out, no, you're not. The new information. So that's kind of how I look at that when it comes to KU here. We'll see if we can't hear from Bill Self and from Travis Goff coming up in the 4:00 hour. A lot to get to. We're going to talk with Jake Clifton, offensive lineman for the Kansas State Wildcats. Linebacker, beg your pardon. For the Kansas State Wildcats. We'll get to all that plus much more here on 580 Sports Talk. We'll get to some football discussions. Do you think this is interesting about the Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce, who, by the way, is questionable? But on their podcast, New X podcast, Jason Kelce talks about the turf and how turf is just terrible. But people are talking about a specific turf. I don't remember ever the field of play, turf or grass, getting this much discussion ever. Like, is this just a something that the players, because more information is coming out? But
I think it's more players speaking up about it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, even last year, it wasn't, I remember Travis Kelce on the New X podcast talking about, first thing I think about when I see our schedule release is when's the bye week? When's the the Thursday night game?
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact, it's tomorrow. And then for Travis Kelce, because he plays on grass, is how many games do I have on turf?
Mm-hmm.
Now, so many people are talking about this. So many people. It's to the point now where I do wonder if something will come about, or will the owners just full on say, go fly a kite. This is collectively bargained. Deal with it. Because we know the owners are about one thing: making money. Period. End of story.
Mm-hmm.
What are you allowed to do if you have turf? You're allowed to do a lot of things in the off season. I don't know, say like have Taylor Swift come, have Beyonce come. People don't realize this. They had to tear out the entire turf for the Beyonce and Taylor Swift concerts.
Yeah.
They literally put in a brand new playing surface during the Jets week. And then, of course, last week was the Vikings game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's going to be a brand new field this Thursday. They ripped up everything to the absolute hard rock dirt, did the concert for Beyonce, and now they re-put turf on there. They're putting sod on there, and it takes 2 weeks for it to work out. That's why the Beyonce schedule got, switched around and everything. That's why they're willing. Hey, we're going to make so much money doing this Beyonce concert that it offsets our field turf. Well, guess what? Or our grass, right? The money it takes to put in the grass. Well, guess what? When you got field turf, you don't got to deal with that. Like, you can do more stuff on it. I don't see, even though the players are complaining and crying about it, which I am agreement with them, 1,000%. This is why, the World Cup is going to be played on grass. Like, Dallas and SoFi and all that. They're going to bring, grass is going to cover the turf. They're going to have grass fields for the World Cup coming up. Like that's a requirement. All right. I don't know if this is going to work, but I will say this. This is the loudest that it has been. It has been. And, Travis Kelce says, yeah, what happened there was my foot slipped, and then all of a sudden in grass, your foot just slides the whole entire way. Where in turf, what happened was his foot slid on the turf and then all of a sudden caught on the turf, the rubber pellets and the turf and all that. And then that's when his ankle kept going, right? Players are bigger, faster, stronger now. So that's why I get it. But that's another, Travis Kelce blaming the turf when it comes to this.
He's certainly not the first, and he is not going to be the last.
No, I mean, that's pretty interesting when it comes to what's happening right now. Just the amount of talk about it. Coming up, though, we're going to hear from Jake Clifton. We will get to the Chiefs injury news. We'll also talk about, should the Chiefs make a trade? Who could it be? We'll get to all that coming up here on 580 Sports.
Welcome back to 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan here with you this afternoon as we welcome into the program Jake Clifton, linebacker for the Kansas State Wildcats, K-State. Coming off of that tough one against Oklahoma State this past weekend, but another big opportunity coming up this Saturday. And Jake, thank you so much for swinging by and hanging out with us. I wanted to start things off talking about the defense as a whole and really you guys at linebacker. There's been so much change for that group this year. Obviously, the injury to Deuce Green earlier in the year moved things around. You've played so much already so far this season. What have you thought about the way you guys as a whole have performed in that second level? And what do you think is next for you guys? That next step you're hoping to get to as we hit the back half of this regular season?
Yeah, so at the linebacker position, it started off pretty hard at the beginning of the season. We had all these accolades and everybody was giving us a lot of hype and whatnot. But injury plagued us. And, I had to move some guys around. Some guys had to step up, and I feel like that actually got a lot of younger guys into the works more and actually got their confidence up more. So I feel like that helped our defense out a little bit, just get more fluctuated, more people to fill in roles like that. And then overall, for our defense to move to the next step, I think, we're a turnover team. We talk about mob all the time, but we got to get that ball on the ground and get some more possessions for our offense for the entirety of the game.
We were actually just speaking with your teammate Khalid Duke a week ago, and we brought up mob football and what does that mean to him. So I'm curious for you, A, what does that mean to you to play that style of football? What does that look like in practice? What does that mean to you on the mental side of things? And how well do you think you guys have done with that? And how well do you think this younger group has adapted to that mindset on the field?
Right. For mob, for me, man, it means, all 11 guys swarming the ball. I mean, like you have that mindset of I'm going to get my job done and then go track that ball, no matter if it's 100 yards away or 5 yards away, and I'm going to finish on the ball with all I got left, every play, not letting anything in the tank. So that really is what mob means to me. And what was that second question?
For your entire group, for the young guys especially you were talking about who have stepped up, how well do you guys think you've lived up to that moniker so far? And what's kind of that next step for you guys to buy into that even more?
Yeah, so with the young guys, it's kind of like seeing examples of people like Deuce Green, or just being around them and talking to him, ball with him, and how he goes about his day, how he goes about his preparation, and things like that. So just overall, getting with the older guys, visually seeing what they're doing, mentally see how they prepare, and that really, they'll catch on to the mob lifestyle pretty quick.
For you as an individual, stepping in and playing some of your most snaps of the season this past Friday night against Oklahoma State, what were some of the things you set out, Jake, to accomplish this year? And, what's, again, for you, that next thing you're hoping to get to? We've got half the regular season still left. What are you hoping to step into, hoping to, take some ownership of as we go forward with this season?
Yeah, just being one of those guys, a coach can depend on, I don't want to be like, really top great one day and good the other. I want to be one of the guys that coach knows, I'm going to bring it every single day and that'll trust them, put me in more in the game and whatnot at different positions, So really, I don't really have a goal. People are going to come in and say, man, I want to start by, day X or game X, I just really want to do whatever's best for the team, get my name known, obviously, but in the right manner. And also, for myself individually, like goals for myself, it's just like small things, not anything big, it's watching more film, it's learn how to tackle better, it's learn how to, call up plays, help my teammates out, things like that.
We're speaking with Jake Clifton, sophomore linebacker for the Kansas State Wildcats, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. Jake, you dealt with an injury early and missed a couple of games this season. What was the process of rehabbing, trying to come back, and who was instrumental in that process for getting your body right, getting yourself ready to play?
Right, so I can sit up here and say, I'm Superman and this thing just heals itself automatically after week one, but sadly that is not the truth, as I had a kryptonite to myself. So people like Mindy and Connor especially, they push me all the time in the training room. Days I did not want to do anything, honestly. And they, kept pushing this perspective, and when they can get me back, and it's right around the horizon, and not letting me get into that hole and beat myself up mentally and go down that drain. So I really give all the props to Connor. He was kind of my guy going through the whole process. So all props to him. He's a GOAT.
You got to play a bunch as a true freshman last season. And this year, because of some of the injuries at the linebacker spot, there are more true freshmen who are getting an opportunity to play at linebacker this year. What advice do you give to those young guys about having to come in and play right away? And what kind of potential do you see in this freshman group of linebackers coming up behind you?
Yeah, so obviously, big name, obviously, everyone's talking about is Austin Romaine. And, he's a dude. He's always, in the film room. I always see him up here sometimes all the time before I even get up here. So he's always trying to learn more all the time. Austin Romaine, he gets with like the older guys all the time. Austin Moore always asks these questions. I mean, it can be like the silliest what-if question, but, he just wants to know the answer to it now. And, he's playing a big role right now, and I think he's taking over it pretty well. I just try to give a message of like, the coaches are going to push you just the same or even harder that you're, big-time starter now. So listen to the message. Don't listen to the tone, what everybody says, because they definitely want what's best for you. So that's pretty much it, honestly.
What do you notice is the biggest changes in yourself just from the freshman year to the sophomore year, whether it's how you prepare, how physically, how your body feels prepared, how mentally you are prepared? What's the biggest difference you notice in yourself as a sophomore compared to that freshman year, the biggest jump you've made?
Yeah, probably mentally, Last year, I was, kind of floating on what I'm doing, my responsibilities. Now I can say, swimming. I'm starting to realize, fits and what the D-line's doing, how the safeties are rotating, all those little things that actually help me out in the end that aren't my job, but they'll help my job be easier for me. And even in, like, the recovery aspect of my body, I mean, last year I didn't play, crazy amount, but still played a good amount. But this year definitely got a few more snaps under my belt through a few games. So just getting, my body right, actually taking that to initiative, doing things every day, to not let myself get caught up, with soreness and injuries, hopefully not ever again, So those are, I'd probably say, my biggest jumps.
We're chatting with Jake Clifton, linebacker for the Kansas State Wildcats here on 580 Sports Talk. Coming up on Saturday, K-State will be in action against Texas Tech, a game you'll be able to catch right here on your home for Wildcats Athletics, 580 WIBW. I wanted to ask you a question, Jake, about someone on the other side of the ball, because you guys on the defense see your own offense all the time during camp, during practice, throughout the year. So you see them as much as anybody else does. And there has been some flack from the outside thrown toward your quarterback, Will Howard, over the last couple of days because of that game that happened in Oklahoma State. Now, your coach, Chris Kleiman, on Tuesday, he put full support behind Will Howard. For you, for the rest of the guys on that defense, the offense, just everyone in the locker room, what is that support like for QB1, Will Howard? And, how I know you guys have his back. I don't want to phrase it like that, but just how strong is that confidence, even in the face of a loss, that he's going to take you guys to the promised land?
We never miss a step. We're always going to be behind his back. He's one of those guys. He came to the locker room and talked to every single guy on the team. He came over and said, "I promise, I'm going to get this better. I'm going to do this right. I'm going to do this better." And I don't even know if he's talking about himself all the way. I think other guys on the team, he's saying he's going to try to push towards to being better as well. Because it's not. Truth is, it's not on Will Howard. He's not going to doesn't have to carry the boat, as people would say. So he's got a lot of people help him. And I mean, you can't not support him. The guy's awesome. He's funny. He's real. He's genuine. He wants what's best for everybody. So, support's always going to be there.
Looking forward, Jake, to this game coming up on Saturday. You guys will go down to take on Texas Tech on the road, 6:00 kickoff. And anyone who knows college football and knows the Big 12 knows that some weird things can happen in Lubbock when the sun sets. So what are you guys going to have to do to make sure you play your A game and you can come out of Lubbock with a bounce-back win on Saturday?
Not focused on the game as much, which sounds weird, but just focusing on, what is today. Whatever day it is today. Kind of get my days mixed up, but, focus on day 1-0, Focus on the next practice, the next meeting, the next meal, the next recovery session, not getting wrapped up in all the hype in the, Twitter world and Instagram world of, how's it going to go down, just taking it day by day, and it'll all work out in the end with the good karma.
All right, last thing I've got for you, Jake, and we'll let you go, and we appreciate you taking the time for us today. We ask everybody who comes on the show this question right before you're about to take the field. So you're listening to music, you're getting hype, you're warmed up before the game. What is the number one song you have to make sure you listen to before you take the field on game day?
Ooh. You know, it varies. It varies. But recently, you know, to put my mind at ease, I listen to some George Strait, Here for a Good Time. You know, got to put the mind at ease with not here forever. You got to make the most of it right now. So that's what it is.
I like that. That is a very different answer than we have heard from a lot of our guests recently. Are you a big country music fan in general?
Yeah, I am. You know, I'll mix it up, but just to put the mind at ease, that's always the finisher.
I like that. Give us a curveball a little bit. Well, Jake Clifton is a linebacker for the Kansas State Wildcats. They'll be on the road taking on Texas Tech coming up on Saturday. Jake, thank you for taking the time for us, man. We really appreciate it. Best of luck this Saturday, and best of luck the rest of this season as well.
Sweet. Thanks for having me.
So there's Jake Clifton, linebacker for the Kansas State Wildcats. K-State versus Texas Tech coming up Saturday right here on 580 WIBW. Big bounce back opportunity for K-State. I think K-State fans could really use it after Friday's game. Really, really use that. That does it for hour number 1 of 580 Sports Talk on this Wednesday afternoon. Coming up in the 3 o'clock hour, who might be a trade target or two for the Kansas City Chiefs coming up as the trade deadline approaches in a few weeks? We'll play One Gotta Go, and we'll get you some key notes from the IARP press conference regarding the final ruling on Kansas basketball's infraction case. All that's coming up after the news on 580 Sports Talk.
Hour 2, 580 Sports Talk on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. Jake LeBon, Brendan Dworzynski, Dan Lucero with you. You just heard the Ghost Your Bills word. Very simple, very easy.
Strange.
You go to our website, 580www.com. Click on the Ghost Your Bills image. Click on it, fill it out, use the word strange, and you have a chance to win. Now, it only works for this hour. There's one every single hour from 8 to 5 o'clock. It is that simple. It is not difficult. So go to our website, type in strange.
You have to be 18 years or older to play, and you can only enter that word this hour.
Yeah.
You also can't be related to any of us. So.
Yeah. Sorry, honey, you can't play. I told Effie one time, I think it was concert tickets we were giving away over on the big 94.5 Country. And she said, "Oh, wait, can I call in and win?" I said, "No, because you're related to me." And she's like, "That's stupid." So, well, talk to the FCC. I don't make those.
You
rules.
want to know what my wife was most upset about? That she couldn't enter the St. Jude Children's Dream Home competition.
Oh. Looking to move up? Looking for a new house?
Well, no, it's one of those things where
Why not?
You donate to a phenomenal cause.
Yeah.
It's to children. And if you are, the odds are a lot better to win this house than it was when I spent $2 yesterday to try to win the 1.7 billion in lottery. Okay. But she couldn't, she even was like, well, can my mom enter? I was like, well, no, she can't, because this is a Kansas situation. You have to be a resident of Kansas. And even if she did, no, she couldn't, because we'd err on the side of caution. No one wants to think that there's something brewing behind the old scenes.
So in my early days of working in radio, I worked in one particular small market. I worked in North Platte, Nebraska, for a company called Eagle Radio. We did not have specific rules and regulations when it came to giveaways. So that is how I came to be doing a remote broadcast at a car dealership where they were giving away a 50-inch plasma TV. And one of the sales reps at the car dealership had previously worked for us. So she was friendly with those of us who were from the radio station. And she was like, well, you guys should sign up and see if you can win. I mean, so we did. And we did the drawing live on the air. And that's how I came to win a 50-inch plasma TV. And that is why those stations have rules now.
There we go.
Against on-air talent or their families being able to win. But too late to stop me from bringing home a 50-inch plasma television for free $99. I had that TV for 10 years. It was great.
Yep. Yeah. So, sorry. Yeah. My wife was upset about that.
Are you going to play the Powerball?
Yeah, I told you about one.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to play this one.
You got to spend $2.
1.73 billion.
Yeah, you take
cash value 756.6 mil.
Yeah. People don't realize that they take more than half. It's more like a 60-40 they take. Even
if you do the annuity.
Yeah.
I think.
By the way, take the lump sum. Don't ever take the annuity.
I would take it lump sum.
Take lump sum. Take lump sum. Get it right away, because guess what? You can invest that money in a much higher rate of return than if you take it the
annuity,
the staggered payment.
Invest that in some dune buggies. I'll tell you what.
So, I believe, maybe I should look this up before I give people bad information. I am under the belief, it is my understanding, in Kansas you don't have to publicly announce that you won.
No,
because in a lot of states you do. I remember when I was growing up, when people won jackpots in Illinois, like they got on the news with a big check at the place where they bought it. And
you don't have to.
I always thought, damn, that would suck, because not only your family, your eighth cousin hears about it and say, hey man, you want to pass a little bit of that my way? No, but then like randos know who you are too. Like, oh man, their kids went to school with my kids. I wonder if they'd be willing to break me off.
Wonder if they'd be willing to invest in my new business opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play it.
Yeah, I'll throw in $2.
Yeah.
You gotta throw in $2. If you don't throw in $2, then I always tell my wife, then I don't have a chance at $700 million. And if I do win the lottery, Like, because today's Wednesday. Tonight, yeah, it's tonight.
Mhm.
You got to get it, I think, before 9:30. 9:30.
Uh,
It's 9.
with the drawing is in 6 hours and 47 minutes.
Yeah, so it's got to be an
10,
hour.
10 o'clock.
Yeah, it got to be before an hour before.
Okay, so
Yeah.
by 9 o'clock.
By 9 o'clock. If I win tonight, you will. If I'm not here tomorrow, and you, Brendan, nor you, Dan, hear from me at all, either something really bad happened or something excellent happened.
As I've said before, I could never be the disappear forever guy. Like, I would get
I'm
so
out.
bored.
I'm not going to get
Honestly,
bored. Never.
I might come to work because I might just buy the radio station. I might just buy it, make it my own thing.
We have a texter from the 785 who asks, if you win, what's the first 2 things you're buying? And then says, Brendan, KU better have a fully funded NIL for every football 5-star.
I was gonna say, you want to
Here's what I'm buying: a quarterback and a defensive end.
Yeah. Who? Drake May. What if instead of the NFL, you made a 1-year stop in Lawrence, Kansas? I will make it worth your while.
I would see if I could buy a majority share of the Colorado Rockies and save my favorite baseball team. That would be the first thing I would buy.
I don't think you got enough money, Dan.
Probably not.
I think you're gonna need more than that.
To buy, yeah, you mean you could probably get
Not a majority share.
a decent share of it.
Yeah.
You could be like the most powerful minority share.
Get on the board.
Yeah. I can't do that with the Packers. I wouldn't be able to afford the Cubs. I surely couldn't afford the
Bulls.
Bulls.
The Royals or the Chiefs. I want now.
No,
We're
man,
good.
it's the best investment on earth.
No, we're
It's
good.
just guaranteed rate of increase.
We're good. No.
What are you gonna do? You're just gonna sit on it? You're gonna put it in CDs? It's boring. Invest in something cool. Buy like a fleet of private jets.
I'd buy a new set of golf clubs because I'd be playing a lot of golf.
Yeah, I, on the other hand, would not be working. I could easily find myself to be entertained with my life.
I would eat out a lot. Like, I'm eating steak every night.
That's not healthy.
That's fine. Like, so what? Oh, your heart's gonna give out. Oh, wow.
Yeah, you know
big
who wasn't
loss.
eating vegetables? Cavemen, and they did fine.
Al Michaels might
They
be
also
the great.
died at like age 36.
Al Michaels is maybe the greatest play-by-play broadcaster of all time. He's in his, I believe, late 70s at this point. He has never eaten a vegetable in his
Yeah,
life.
I don't believe that.
All of his coworkers say that it's true. They all say. I think it was a
I
story.
guarantee you, when he was like 13 years old, he had a vegetable.
No, he said he wouldn't eat. Said his parents stopped doing it because he wouldn't eat it. There was a story he told Pat McAfee a year or two ago. He was saying, like, I'm going to miss working with Michelle Tafoya. It must have been 2 years ago. And he was talking about the vegetable thing. And he said they would go out to dinner, like their, post-production meeting dinner as a crew. And she would try to sneak vegetables onto his plate. And he would either like yell at her or just tell them to go bring him a new plate.
Oh my God.
He didn't even want them on the plate.
Hey,
He did no.
Hey,
he,
that's dude. Come on,
he's
bro.
The
I
other-
lost a little respect for Al Michaels right now.
The other angle of it I
Buddy.
heard is he had a waitress tell him, like, oh, you can just take the lettuce off of your sandwich. And he said, no, like, do not put it on there. I'm not taking it off.
Congratulations,
Do not put it on there.
Al Michaels. You are like my son. He's also 3. Daddy, I don't want that touching my plate. Okay, well then don't eat it. Well, no, it needs to be off my plate. Al Michaels, you just went down in my book. Jim Nance is ahead of you now.
Ew, a little neurotic.
What?
Your son.
Al Michaels!
I know.
But
I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm
but-
neurotic too.
But my son is 3. I'm going to give him a pass. Al Michaels, you're an adult.
I'm giving him he can choose what he wants to do with his life.
Cheapers, Al Michaels.
It's a good take.
Like, I like vegetables.
I
but
do too.
There's a core group of them I will eat. Like broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus. That's the inner circle. Everything else,
That's the inner circle of hell.
nah, man. Oh, that's so good. You give me some good baked asparagus.
No, I'm with you. I'm grilled asparagus.
Yeah,
better.
grilled asparagus. Yeah, grilled
is
asparagus.
good. I like
Ooh,
grilled asparagus. Yeah.
Not really healthy, but you put a little cheese on it.
Good. I like
Ooh.
grilled asparagus.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Team asparagus.
Vegetables are fine. I just prefer to eat like a raccoon.
Well, all
I
right then.
prefer to eat trash.
Yeah.
From
Which,
the dumpster.
granted, I mean, you saw what I used to eat for lunch every day.
Yes.
I'm not.
I remember.
I'm not criticizing.
Yeah.
I'm just,
The sports corner smelled like McRib for a month.
It's coming back.
I was told it was never coming back.
I was told as well.
Bunch of lies, marketing.
I would have grabbed one for lunch today if it was back already.
Gross. Still haven't eaten a McRib. Got to write it.
I finally did. I finally gave in and tried the McRib. It was fine.
No, it was not. It was terrible.
You never tried it.
Exactly. I'm going to tell you how it was for you. Let's see what the Chiefs could do at a midseason trade. And the reason why is Van Jefferson yesterday, he got traded from the Rams, and he got traded to, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank now. The
Falcons.
The Falcons. I look back. Did you know that the Chiefs have actually been pretty active during the season when it comes to trades?
Yeah.
Last year, they made 2 of them. They traded for Kadarius Toney, and they also traded Rashad Fenton. The year before that, traded for Melvin Ingram. So they have been active at the trade market or the trade deadline. Is there a Melvin Ingram out there that you could go out and make a trade for? Plus, we have seen that the NFL trade deadline has gotten a little bit more juicier in the last couple of years than it was previously. Is there a Melvin Ingram? Is there a Kadarius Toney? Or do they have enough depth at a certain spot to give up something and get something in return? For some reason, I don't know why, but sometimes, if someone throws something out on social media and it sticks and people all get to talking about it, but there have actually been people saying that the Chiefs need to trade for McCole Hardman because the Chiefs need wide receiver help.
So we got to that yesterday near the end of the 5 o'clock hour. And I would like, if you missed any of the 5 o'clock hour yesterday, I would like to reiterate, if you believe that, find a doctor. Go get help. Go seek a professional.
And that's the reason why a lot of this stuff is a little bit
it's so dumb.
Kind of funny.
He stinks.
But the Chiefs have done something the last 2 seasons during the year. Melvin Ingram, Kadarius Toney to help their team. Is there? I didn't think they'd be interested in Van Jefferson because Van Jefferson is more so he's a rental because he's going to be a free agent at the end of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And the Chiefs are not interested in rentals unless you didn't have enough pass rush help and you needed to get some pass rush help. I don't see the Chiefs trading for pass rush help because if they do, you want to know who's still out there, who still can be signed?
Carlos Dunlap.
Carlos Dunlap. So therefore, they're not going to trade for a pass rush help. I don't see them trading for linebackers. I don't see them trading for safeties or corners. We know they're not going to do anything at running back. The only position would be at wide receiver, but it doesn't make any sense to trade for a wide receiver at the deadline as a rental. Like they did it for Toney for the future. They actually, wow, there's a guy out there who we still can have 3 years of team control under after this year because they can pick up his 5th-year option because he was a first-round pick. So you had him last year. You can have him for 3 more years. And I think they will pick up his 5th-year option just for this year. It's cheap. That would be the only position. But I don't see any wide receivers who are under contract right now in their rookie deal that they would be willing to go after. We do know that they tried to get Hopkins. We know that. They tried to get OBJ. We know that. So they were in the market for a wide receiver this offseason. They just weren't willing to spend. Do they still view that right now after 5 games? Or is our wide receiver unit good enough that we are going to ride with it? The only one who I do think that there could be a possibility, but injuries have been a big issue thus far. They had that money. We talked about it yesterday. They got a lot of cap space, right? They had that money earmarked for Chris Jones. And I do think they thought they could get a deal done. It's not going to work now. So you've got money that instead of going to Chris Jones, is going to go somewhere. I do wonder if Juju is not in play for a trade with the Chiefs. Now, the reason I say this, the Patriots, they're going to be sellers. He's under contract. It's not an egregious amount. Knows the playbook. Comfortable with the Chiefs. That is one that I kind of go, the Patriots are in rebuild mode. They get a draft pick for him. You'd also get Juju for not just the rest of this year, but next year. That fits the Chiefs mold. Plus, you still, MVS is not going to be around next year because they're going to cut MVS after this year. Sky Moore has done nothing, and I've sold all my stock on Sky Moore. So a part of me is, what about Juju? I think that is the wide receiver that they could go after, not McCole Hardman.
No, if the Chiefs even call McCole Hardman's agent, they don't deserve anything. That'd be so stupid. I can't.
Yeah, we're done with that now. We're
done with that. No, I
don't hate
I
the
would
idea.
be shocked if they even called about Juju, to be honest with you, because they could have afforded him this offseason. They didn't even make an offer. Well, they did not make a competitive offer relative to what the Patriots gave him. I would be quite surprised if they went after that. Because, again, I don't know that the Chiefs are in a position where they'd be willing to go after a receiver who they already chose to not bring back after he was their number one wide receiver a year ago, who's got a knee issue that is never going away. Like,
that's what I said. Injury history.
I would not if I was the Chiefs. I would think the Chiefs are ready to move on from that option.
In a vacuum, like all the things, Jake, you say are true. He does know the playbook. There's a trust level between him and Mahomes that maybe doesn't exist with some of these wide receivers that are currently on the roster that I think could be valuable. But you don't just get him for, 7 games. He's on a 3-year deal. And with a knee injury that feels like it's going to be nagging for the remainder of his career, do you really want to be saddled with that in 2024 and 2025? I don't think you do. So I don't think that's the direction the Chiefs go. I honestly think that the biggest addition this team is going to make at the middle portion of the season is just getting Charles Omenihu off of suspension. I think they're going to view that as almost like a trade acquisition, because they had to know when they signed Charles Omenihu that there was going to be some level of league-wide discipline for him getting arrested and charged with domestic violence or accused of domestic violence during the playoffs.
They just didn't think it would be 6 games. I think they thought it would be 4.
Maybe.
That's what I
you might be right.
Believe that.
But as it stands, it was 6 games, and they get him for week 7. And that, I think, is going to be the move that they view to boost their pass rush at midseason. So I don't think they're going to address that in any meaningful way. I think barring injury, they're going to sit out the trade deadline. I don't see, particularly after they gave up a 3rd and a 6th for Kadarius Toney. And I mean, he was the man in the Super Bowl. Like, as far as I'm concerned, what Toney did in a Super Bowl win made that trade worth it. I don't care what you gave up for him.
I agree with that.
He won you a Super Bowl.
You mean the longest punt return in Super Bowl history?
I feel the same way about when the Seahawks traded for Percy Harvin and they had him for all of 7 regular season games. He returned a kick for a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Worth it. Helped you win a championship. Worth it.
Here's what I'll say about and I'm not saying I would do it, because it is the knee injury is something, but you guys talk about money, like it would just be for 23 and 24. It's going to be a $2 million cap hit this year because it'd be prorated almost half the year. Next year it'd be $10 million. And then you can cut them because the dead cap is $2 million. So it's not as if, they're investing a boatload of money into Juju Smith-Schuster.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a $10 million cap hit next year. They've got the room. It's just, that is the guy who we know he's got success in the Chiefs offense. He's the type of guy that they're looking for. Like, honestly, he could learn from Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice, you're hoping, is going to be the next Juju for the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, that's the guy that he's got that skill set, bigger guy, yards after the catch. Like, if you think about it, what was the last, big catch and run that a Chief wide receiver has had this year? I know it's 5 games, but they don't have one, right? There's not one where you catch it like against the Bills, right? Everybody remember that one? Throw a little crossing route.
Juju on the slant? Yeah.
Or Juju catches it, bowls into, Hyde, spins around and takes off 40 yards and scores a touchdown. The only guy who can do that on this Chiefs team right now is Rice. Like right now, Tony's not healthy enough to do that.
No.
Like the biggest factor for Tony is not a skill set. It's that he's not healthy.
Well, and
Like that's the only reason I point out Juju is it's not going to cost a lot. He knows the system, and the Chiefs know him. It's whether or not you believe. And Dan, if they do sit out this wide receiver, trade deadline, then we know that they're comfortable with what they've got because they did get in the mix. They were in the mix for OBJ and Hopkins. They just they didn't want to pay it. Hey, I really like that Chanel bag or that Gucci bag. I think it would look great. It would fit perfectly with my ensemble. I'm just not willing to spend that kind of money.
OBJ at this stage more like a Vera Bradley probably than Gucci.
The big reason why I tend to agree, I mean, I think the Chiefs will test the market and see what is out there, what's available. But over the next 2 years worth of upcoming free agents, so guys will be free agent receivers in 2024 and 2024 and 2025. There's no one that stands out who's a legitimately good player who's not on the wrong side of 30 on a team that just isn't very good. And that to me would lead me to believe that's not what the Chiefs are looking for. The other thing is there's not really a game breaker. Like that's why the Chiefs went out and got Kadarius Toney, because they bought into his athleticism, his burst, his ability to make those game-changing plays. And in the Super Bowl, he did. And I agree with you, Dan. If you are a contributor to a Super Bowl, like a key contributor, your acquisition to get him is worth it. That's why anyone who says, Frank Clark wasn't worth it. No, wrong. Frank Clark was absolutely worth it. It would have been worth more because he got you just 2 Super Bowls. It was a huge contributor for both.
Yeah.
So I don't really see that guy. Like McCole Hardman's not that guy. I know we're done with it. I'm just saying, like,
He's not that guy.
If you're looking at that caliber of player, like he's fast, but that's kind of where he tops out. Like Toney can run different routes, and you can use him as a return man, and you can use him as the jet guy. And theoretically, he's got a decent route tree. Like that's the kind of player I think the Chiefs would be most interested to make a move for. And I just don't know that that's out there.
Last thing I'll
Tester from the 785 throws this out. Instead of Juju from the Patriots, what about Kendrick Bourne? Free agent after this season?
I like Kendrick Bourne a lot. I think he's quick. Again, I just don't know if he's got the kind of explosiveness the Chiefs would want. I like Bourne. You want to talk about not cost you anything? He's only 28. He's only going to make
I don't think Kendrick
$3 million after a trade.
I don't think Kendrick Bourne is a bad player. I don't know that he elevates the ceiling of that receiver room.
I also don't know
substantially.
if somebody that on that short of notice as a receiver can get this Chiefs playbook. That's the hard part, unless you bring a completely different set of circumstances. Like Mike Evans. I would do it. I would trade for Mike Evans because you want to know what? Hey, Mike, run down the field. I'm going to throw it to you. That's a different skill set than what they've got right now. Like if Juju's knee was 100% healthy and he was crushing it right now, yes, I would think that they would. The injury is the biggest issue.
Joe in the YouTube comment says, more bubbles for Sky Moore.
Sky Moore. I'm done with Sky Moore.
Already done. Not even a year and a half.
No, I'm done with Sky Moore.
All right.
Coming up next, we got One Gotta Go, and then we will get to the statement from the KU Athletic Department. All right, one gotta go. You got pizza. You've got wing / boneless wing. So regular wing / nugget. Those are combined into one. You know, the boneless wing, which is a nugget, and then the regular wing. I'm going to combine both of those together, right? Because it's two different types of wing.
Okay.
Okay. Tacos and steak. One got to go.
Steak,
taco, wings, and what was the first one?
Pizza.
Yeah, I go steak because I have faith in my ability to make the other three. And I don't always get it right with steak.
Okay.
But I get the other three right every time.
I'm dumping tacos. I love tacos.
What?
I love tacos.
What?
I don't love them as much as I love the other three things. Wow. Yeah.
Tacos is my number one.
Oh, yeah, definitely not for me.
Oh,
I
love
I mean, we
tacos.
have taco night like every other week. I mean, we do
Love
tacos
tacos.
regularly. I enjoy them quite a bit, but nah. Not more than steak, not more than wings, not more than pizza.
You ready with mine? I'm going to get rid of?
You getting rid of wings?
No, God, no.
Pizza? Oh, pizza.
Pizza's out of here. Goodbye.
That should have been obvious.
Yeah.
Pizza's gone.
Well, then what would they serve at press boxes across the MIAA during basketball
I would
season?
pack my own lunch. Pizza's gone. Easy.
Now, you're going to want pizza back when your kids are of pizza-eating age.
What do you mean? They're already pizza eating age. Man, I'll tell you what, my daughter can just house cheese sticks. She ate 3 full cheese sticks from Pizza Hut.
Nice.
Nah, man, listen.
She's monster.
I've never really had bad pizza. It's hard to screw up wings because you're just throwing, you're just throwing it in the fryer or you're grilling it or whatever it is. It's really hard to screw up tacos, and there's a lot of different things you can do with
Love
tacos. That's
tacos.
great for variety. You mess up steak, man. Like, you can get a bad steak. I have had bad steak.
Yeah.
I've never had bad pizza, bad wings, bad tacos. So, yeah.
But plus, the good news
steak
is
gone.
I could still have Chicago deep dish because that's not pizza.
It's lasagna.
It is casserole. So we're good. Hey,
You're just trying to antagonize Brendan.
Who's this?
And I
What?
respect it.
This casserole. Awesome. I'm excited. Casserole's got,
That's fine.
cheese
Hey,
and sauce.
you want to be narrow-minded? That ain't no skin off my back.
Not just,
You wanna be
I'm not-
narrow-minded?
It's not
That's-
narrow-mindedness. I'm just describing what it is. It's a big, giant, thick casserole.
The same person who said that Detroit-style pizza is not a real thing, which is also wrong. Very narrow-minded views of pizza across the desk from me here. Very narrow-minded. All right, you
I do
get
love casserole.
did this one a couple of weeks ago. I think it was right actually after the first poll of the year came out. I'm going to give you Georgia, your Big Ten winner. Well, all right, we'll go Michigan right now because they're better than Ohio State. Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, Oklahoma. Who's not making the college football playoff?
Florida State.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Florida
Florida
State
State.
here, too.
I think they're going to get got at one point in time.
Who gets them?
North Carolina, Clemson.
Clemson already had their chance to get them and should have gotten them and didn't.
They don't play North Carolina
Well, they might play them in the title game. Yeah.
North Carolina's got to get there.
Yeah, I'm going to go with North Carolina. Or Florida State.
The hardest game left on Florida State's schedule is Duke. Syracuse, Duke, Wake, Pitt, Miami, North Alabama, Florida. That's what they've got left. Why are they going? They clearly want to be an SEC team. They're playing an FCS school second to last week of the year. They're ready for the SEC.
I just think I just think of those 4 teams like Florida State's the least of those 4 teams. So I'm not trying to overthink the schedule part of it too much.
No, I would agree. I think OU might run the table. You mean they have to beat Texas one more time, essentially. If they can do that, they're going to run the table. And I think the Pac-12 winner is going to come from this weekend's Washington-Oregon game, and I think they're going to get in with how deep the Pac-12 is this year. So I would agree on Florida State.
Ready? Miami beats Florida State, and Mario Cristobal actually kneels it at the end of the game.
Well, now it's just crazy talk.
Yes, that's preposterous. Absurd.
Yeah.
Wide right 4,
I think so.
perhaps?
I think there's been 3, I think.
Yeah, there's been 3. Yeah.
I think there's a wide left in there, too, at one point.
Love that.
Okay, so you have to take one of these 4 ex-Chiefs wide receivers. You have to have them on your team. So this is not one gotta go. This is you got to have one of these 4.
If Bobby Scipio is not one of these 4, I'm furious.
No, all 4 of them are active in some form or fashion.
Oh,
They are McCole Hardman,
Okay.
DeMarcus Robinson, Byron Pringle, and XFL great Josh Gordon. You have to have one of those in your wide receiver room on your roster.
Hardman, Gordon, Robinson, and who's the other one?
Pringle.
Okay, so it comes down to Robinson or Pringle.
I'm going Pringle.
I think I'm going with the can of Pringles.
Yeah, I think he's the best of the group.
Yeah.
Hugely disrespectful to the monster season Josh Gordon had with the Seattle Sea Dragons.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we were sold for like 7 years now that he's back. This is going to be the year.
So
Do you
good
know-
in practice.
Do you know how many? So Byron Pringle in 3 seasons with the Chiefs had 67 catches, including 42 in 2021.
Mhm.
Do you know how many receptions he has in 16 games since?
For the Bears?
And now Commanders.
Now Commanders.
19.
Too high.
10.
Too low.
All right.
14.
13.
Damn. Got it.
You were still too high. 13 catches. He has 3 receptions on 5 targets for 29 yards so far this year with the Manders. And yet I still think he's the right answer.
Yeah, I don't need to see more DeMarcus Robinson. I don't need to see more McCole Hardman. Josh Gordon is tempting because there's just always going to be
The backup quarterback syndrome right there.
what if?
No.
What if for like
No.
4 weeks he screws his head on
Brandon,
straight?
stop it.
That's why I'm going with Pringle.
Thank you.
It's the sure thing. Oh my God.
Yeah. No.
That's a good one.
It-
Good in terms of difficulty of the question.
Backup quarterback syndrome, Josh Gordon.
I mean, what if?
I was like that with
Yeah.
Kelvin Benjamin.
Oh, I
We
remember.
all get sucked in
No, I mean the
every
Gordon.
now and then, okay?
I mean the Gordon thing is it's the Arrested Development bit. You know, all of everybody
It-
thinks it'll.
it could work for us.
It could have worked for us. Joe on the YouTube feed says no DeAnthony Thomas. He didn't make the cut.
No longer an
No,
active
not
player,
active,
I don't
no.
believe.
Yeah, no.
Could have thrown a Dexter McCluster in there.
I looked him up. Anthony Thomas. Only 30. Like I feel like
Really?
he's still got some life in those legs.
That dude took 39 steps to go 7 yards. Just right there.
Wherever he is, I hope that he is having a very successful camping trip.
Yeah. Coming up next, I'll get the latest news on KU, and they've released a statement regarding the punishment that was handed out today by the IARP. We'll get to that next. has released a statement in regards to the IARP's punishment, which, by the way, the punishment is 3 years probation. Now it's just regular probation, not double secret. And the vacation of wins, which amounts to 15.
Yeah, it's for the 15 games
Yep.
KU won while Silvio De
was
Sousa was
Yeah.
playing.
And they have to take out the Final Four of 2018 from the KU. From the KU record book, they don't, but from the NCAA record book, they will.
So did we ever get, from any of these other teams that have taken down banners, have we ever gotten clarification what happens if you don't?
I have no idea.
Like, if you just said, no, we're leaving it up? What?
Well, Louisville doesn't have their banner there.
Well, yeah. Don't they have one? They have a funny one, I thought.
I think, did they just hang one that just says 2013?
I know the whole point was to see if Luke Hancock could end up keeping the MOP award because
I think they reinstated that. Yeah.
Because he wasn't ineligible, but he played. See, to me, that's
No,
dumb.
they've got a banner up that says 2013 final coaches poll number 1.
That's sick.
That
That rules.
Been
That's
saying
like-
for years that KU should hang one of those for 2020.
No, I was pounding the table to
COVID
get
champ.
the what was it, the NABC Crystal Basketball Trophy
Yeah.
that the Coaches
Yeah.
Association hands out? No, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Wait, hey, look, Texas Tech has a banner up for the 2020 NCAA tournament.
Okay, no, that's trash. That is trash.
Wait a minute. They should have a banner. They should have a Final Four banner.
No, 2020, the tournament that didn't happen. They have a banner
Oh.
up that says NCAA tournament, and then in parentheses, COVID.
Yeah, no, it is trash. Oh, absolutely trash.
There was no selection committee that year. Like if they would have, see, that's what they should have done. They during that year they should have done, but of course they didn't play any of the title game or the conference championship game, so you couldn't have that. You know what I mean? Like you didn't know the field. Like, you know, if you would have played all the conference championships, then you would have known who would have been the automatic bids, and then you could have done the, you know, the
Yeah.
at-larges and at least say Texas Tech, you would have made the tournament.
Yeah, I
That
wish
type
they
of
had
thing.
done that.
You know what I mean? But they couldn't because you didn't know who was the automatic bids. It would have just been all automatic bids.
Yeah.
It wouldn't qualify bids. So
I
that's
mean,
why they didn't.
Sure.
They didn't do that.
Yeah, no,
but-
that banner does exist though.
Yeah. So I want to get to the statement from Chancellor Douglas Girod and Director of Athletics Travis Goff. Here it is. Today's decision by the Independent Resolution Panel confirms what we've been saying since the beginning. The major infractions of which were accused were unfounded. Most importantly, the panel decision unequivocally confirms our coaches were not involved or had any knowledge of payments to student athletes. While doing our due diligence as part of this process, we acknowledge lesser infractions for which we self-imposed penalties last fall. Regarding to the additional penalties announced in today's decision, we accept them and we will move forward. As we've said throughout this process, KU has one of the most robust compliance programs in the country, a point that was confirmed by the multiple comprehensive audits that we've undertaken throughout this process. Looking ahead, we will build upon our strong culture of compliance and continue to be a national leader in this space. We appreciate the members of the Independent Resolution Panel for their fair review of the facts. We fully support Coach Self and his staff. We look forward to him finishing his career at KU many years from now. Most importantly, we are pleased that our coaches and student athletes can now move forward with their Jayhawk careers unfettered by the uncertainty this case has brought.
Unfettered.
End quote. Here's the here. This is why the whole, you know, plausible deniability and everything is that I was like, most importantly, the panel decision unequivocally confirms our coaches were not involved or had any knowledge of payments to student athletes. If you believe that, I got some real estate that I want to share with you,
But again, it's proof.
Yeah,
that's
couldn't
what I'm
prove it.
saying.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
they can say that with a straight face because that is what is proven. You know, what's the, is it in A Few Good Men? You know, it's not what's true. It's what I can prove, right? What I can prove. That's why you had to get Colonel Jessup to say that he called for the code red, because that's what you can prove. They couldn't prove it, so therefore you can say they had no knowledge of payments going to student athletes. Folks, I'm going to tell you this. Bill Self knows whatever is happening under his program.
So here's the most important part. I've been reading the public case decision, which is available on the website of the IARP. If you are interested in reading it, it is IARPCC.org. And you can go and you can find the full public case decision. And I've been reading it during the commercial breaks and what have you, because I want to be real informed about this. The crux of the accusations from the complex case unit were that Adidas and the people working for Adidas were essentially the same as boosters, that they were acting in the interest of Kansas basketball when they made payments to Billy Preston's mom or Silvio De Sousa's guardian, or when they tried to get DeAndre Ayton to come to Kansas, that when the when the employees of Adidas were acting, they were doing so in the interest of Kansas basketball and with the knowledge of Bill Self and Curtis Townsend. Now, the latter part, like you said, that couldn't be proven. They couldn't prove that. As for the former, this is from the public case decision. This is on page 39 of the case decision. The hearing panel finds that Kansas's sponsorship agreement with apparel company was standard compared to the other similar agreements in the case record. Nothing in apparel company's sponsorship agreements with Kansas was unique to elevate Kansas in a manner to demonstrate that apparel company was promoting Kansas, nor did the sponsorship agreement require, authorize, or contemplate apparel company promoting Kansas's athletics program. Rather, the sponsorship was designed to promote apparel company, not Kansas. Therefore, the hearing panel concludes that credible and persuasive information does not support the conclusion that apparel company was promoting Kansas, and therefore apparel company is not a representative of athletics interests for Kansas based on the sponsorship agreement. And I actually agree with that. Like, broadly, I agree that that makes sense, that the shoe companies are acting in the best interest of the shoe company.
Yeah.
And if that happened to benefit Kansas or any of the other Adidas schools, great. But their primary focus was, how does this benefit Adidas? How does this money that we give Billy Preston make sure that when Billy Preston gets to the NBA,
he chooses Adidas,
he wears Adidas?
And if you don't think that's a big deal, I mean, the money that they're throwing at some of these college athletes in, back then, peanuts compared to if one of those guys turns into Kevin Durant, if one of those guys turns into, LeBron James, or the
that's
money
been
that
going on
get.
4 years, and Adidas is not the only shoe company that has done this. That's why the shoe companies are so heavily involved in AAU basketball. And now, today, it's all above board, essentially.
I mean, all this tells me is like, hey, you did nothing wrong.
I just love that.
I'm going to go as far as to say not just not guilty. I'm going to go as far as to say innocent.
The panel unequivocally confirms our coaches were not involved in or had no knowledge of payments to student athletes. This is the difference between the court world and the real world.
Vance in the YouTube comments asked the question, why aren't the apparel companies getting penalized? I know it's a rhetorical question. I get that. And that's part of the reason why the whole FBI investigation was such a sham from the very beginning. Like, so you're gonna punish, again, Book Richardson and all these other dudes who end up going to jail. Yeah,
TJ Gasnola went to jail for 2 years.
Legitimate prison.
Yeah.
You're going to send these guys there because of the, potential wire fraud or conspiracy or whatever committed by Adidas. Like, yeah, they were part of it. They shouldn't get off, scot-free for aiding in what might have been a crime. But sending these, mid-level assistants to prison, ruining their lives over this.
Yeah.
It was a sham. It was a sham from the very beginning.
Jail because he was the conduit to giving players money.
I have no skin in this game, no affiliation with or tie to any of the programs involved in any of the IARP investigations or any of the FBI wiretaps.
In fairness, if this had gone badly for KU, you'd have to sit next to me moping all day.
That's true. That is true. That would have been a significant negative. But I can't help but think that if your conclusion is anything but what a waste of time, then like I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what you were hoping for. I don't know what outcome other than I want to see KU punished because I'm a fan of a rival school and I think it would be funny. Like I don't know what you think is fair. I don't know what anybody thought would have been reasonable or fair to have come from any of this. It's all a big waste of time. Here's always a big waste of time.
I'll give you the opposing side of it. And here's what I will give you. They know that the KU coaches tried to pay for players. They got caught, but there wasn't enough to prove it. So that's why they're upset. That's why fans are upset that KU didn't get punished because they knew they were cheating, but there wasn't enough to convict them. Therefore, you can't. And now it's over and done with. Like, that's the reason why the fans out there are upset, is that, and just kind of like I told you, like, if you think that KU didn't know what was going on,
you're right.
But they couldn't prove it. Plausible deniability is a thing. Like, that's the reason why is a lot of people, because it's the same thing. You know, you want the good teams, if you don't think they're doing it the right way, then you want them to pay for it, right? There should be punishment if you break the rules. Well, you have to break the rules and you have to be proved that you broke the rules. Otherwise, it's like, well, every little accusation you can go with it. So that's the reason why fans are upset at this. Kind of the same reason why I'm upset at North Carolina. They got away with it because their classes were a sham. Like, that's the reason why. Coming up, it's been a while since the Denver Broncos beat the Chiefs. We'll have some fun with that. number 3, 580 Sports Talk. Coming your way on this Wednesday, Jake LeBon, Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero with you. We've got Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com coming up at the bottom of this hour. A little What Is Wrong With You. We'll get to some of the audio from Bill Self and Travis Goff as they are speaking to the media right now. Bill Self says, I want to thank the IARP for their professionalism and fair review of the facts of this process. And Travis Goff said, today's a good day to be a Jayhawk. We're excited to turn the page. We feel really good about all the things that are going on within the department. We do things the right way at the University of Kansas, and that will continue to be a hallmark as we move ahead.
Hallmark, also a big deal in Lawrence, so that's probably smart.
Big deal. Yeah. So, KU, we'll get some of that audio coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. That's actually kind of important instead of just him and the Han, if you will. So
Bill Self's wearing a suit, so you know it's a big deal.
Yeah.
We know how much he's opposed to suits these days.
Thankful for the IARP for recognizing the facts.
We really should have been calling it the YARP this whole time. I feel like a missed opportunity now that it's about to die.
IARP.
ARP.
Yeah, it was there for half a year.
I could have been a sick Halloween costume for like real basketball sickos. Wyatt YARP.
Yeah. So we'll get to that coming up in just a little bit. Let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on our text line. We've had plenty of people interact with us today. 785.
Varying levels of excitement.
272-9429. Some happy, some upset.
A partisan divide, shall we say.
Some upset that KU got any penalties at all.
Yeah, I said something somewhere online today that, hey, look, grand scheme of things, it sucks to lose the tournament streak, but I'd rather still have a chance this year to win a national championship. It sucks that the 2018 banner comes down. Dog, I was there. We've got pictures. We got air checks. I got the T-shirt. We were there. We know that happened. We saw that game in Omaha. We saw that crazy game with Duke. Like it happened. They can take the banner down. I still know it was a real thing.
So actually, spin zone.
Okay.
KU fans now should be thanking Villanova for making 18 threes in that game, because if KU would have won that game, maybe they beat Michigan, maybe they win the title, and the title would then be
great
revoked.
spin.
Yeah.
Tremendous spin zone.
How about that?
But I've had people tell me like, no, this tradition and records and stats are what this program hangs their hat on. We should sue. I had someone tell me KU should sue. Dog, you got to step back. You got to take a moment.
Man.
You got to go for a walk.
Nope.
In the grand scheme of things,
sue him.
If KU wanted to,
Get him.
I'm not going to tell them not to.
Get him.
I don't have a say in that. But
get him.
Like, guys, come on. I saw someone say they would have rather had a postseason ban too. And I thought, okay, so you would rather possibly risk a chance at future national championships and all of the things that come with playing in the NCAA tournament or the second weekend or the Final Four or a title game. You would rather risk the chance of losing all of that than give up a page in a book that we all already know happened, that there's HD highlights of. I know you're just trolling me, but like that, that doesn't make any sense to me. Even with, the streak ending and the banner comes down and all that, or well, it's not its own banner, but the banner gets edited or whatever. Like KU got out of this pretty dang well. It's hard to be all that upset about it. Yeah. And again, we are like not even 2 full years removed from a national championship. That lightens the blow so much.
Correct. Every school that the IARP ruled on got off pretty well. And every coach that fell under the IARP's ruling, they're all still coaching. Like Sean Miller's not at Arizona anymore. He's still in the game. Will Wade's not in the Power 5 anymore, but he's still got a job. Rick Pitino
is back. Rick Pitino was a hot name for a bunch of jobs this year.
He's so back. He's all the way back.
Where's he coaching? St.
St.
John's.
John's.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to tell you, if my boys do be Edge of 4 and that St. John's team takes off, Rick Pitino's not just back. He's all the way back. Slick Rick in the Garden, filling that place up for some Big East hoops. Oh, yeah. So,
College
yeah,
basketball's back, baby.
Grand scheme of things, it's all...
Yeah.
It worked out for everybody. And now it's gone because the IARP was slow and expensive, and it got it right.
And by the time it finished, all of the stuff it was ruling about basically became legal under NIL legislation.
So if they gave someone $200 at a barbecue, give me a break, man.
The details,
depending on what car he drives, that's one tank of gas. Come on.
The details on that are even funnier than... So here's what happened. On July 20th, 2019, representative of Athletics Interest Number 1 had a conversation with a local sports journalist and radio host at a restaurant in Lenexa, Kansas. Was that any of us?
No, I wish. No, that was not me.
Anyway, local sports journalist recorded portions of his conversation. In the recording, representative of Athletics Interest Number 1 described events that occurred at a barbecue event at head men's basketball coach's house sometime in 2016. Among the attendees at the event were men's basketball student athlete number 4, men's basketball student athlete number 5, and men's basketball student athlete number 6, who were all players during the 2014-15 and 2015-16 seasons. Representative of Athletics Interest Number 1 played a cornhole game at the barbecue event with those 3 players. They each bet $100 on the cornhole game. Representative of Athletics Interest Number 1 and student athlete number 4 competed against student athlete number 5 and student athlete number 6. And representative of Athletics Interest 1 and men's basketball student athlete 4 won. The other student athletes did not pay their bets, so the representative of Athletic Interest placed $200 near or under a plant for men's basketball student athlete number 4 to cover the bets and instructed the student athlete to go look near or under the plant.
That's sick. That's awesome.
That's a level 3 violation in this world. That took 6 years.
Sick, man.
A $100 bet, a $200 bet on a game of cornhole. That's what we're talking about here. Like, how do you have the energy to get riled up and angry about that?
I love it so much. That's awesome. I'm glad it's done, man. It's over with.
Honestly, to me, it's been over and done for a while now because it's 6 years ago. My statute of limitations is over. Let's get to some fun topics, okay?
In fairness, I have found this very fun.
Well, more like important topics about what has happened before or after the Chiefs' last loss to the Denver Broncos. Okay. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Denver Broncos play football, right? It's been a while since the Chiefs lost. So we're going to have some fun with this. All right. So I want you to come up with something, and we are going to say that happened either before the streak started or since then. The Broncos have yet to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example. Okay, see if you guys can figure this out. Have the Chiefs lost to the Broncos since the day Prince died?
I think Prince died.
The Chiefs lost to the Broncos more recently than Prince dying.
Yeah, I think Prince dying happened before. Yeah.
No. When did Prince die?
He died April 21st, 2016.
Oh, it was 16.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's right.
Wow.
Think about that.
That's pretty wild.
Think about that. Here are the people who passed away in 2016. Muhammad Ali, Carrie Fisher, Alan Rickman. Man, what a great guy.
Hans.
Yes. Bubby, I'm your white knight. And Prince also, David Bowie. But yeah, Prince died since the fact that the Chiefs lost to the Denver Broncos. Like, that one blew my mind.
That's a good one. That was tough.
Blew my mind that the Chiefs haven't lost since Prince passed away in 2016.
All right, here's my first one for you. Which happened more recently? The Broncos' most recent win over the Chiefs, or the first reveal, the first time that Sling TV was introduced? That was kind of the first over-the-top TV service before YouTube TV, before my beloved PlayStation Vue, it was Sling. Which came first?
I'm going to say Sling TV was first.
I'm going to say Broncos got to win.
Sling TV was revealed first. It was revealed in January of 2015.
No kidding.
Yeah. It is 8 months older than that Broncos win.
What happened more recently? The Broncos beating the Chiefs or the Royals clinching an American League Central Championship?
Okay, the last time that the Chiefs lost to the Broncos was early part because they beat him the second game in November. So I'm going to say that I'm going to say the Royals clinched before.
No, the Royals clinched more recently.
More recent.
Game.
Yes. The Royals would have clinched in mid-September. It was an early season.
September.
September 3rd, I believe.
September 15th was the Broncos win.
The Royals have won a World Series earlier, more recent than the Broncos beating the Chiefs. I got to send that to my Broncos friends. I got to do that this week. Fantastic. All righty. What happened more recent? The Broncos beating the Chiefs or our good pal Harambe? The gorilla made news.
Harambe was 2016, I'm pretty sure.
Harambe was senselessly murdered by a rogue zookeeper on May 25th of 2016.
Oh my God. Please tell me you didn't know that off the top of your head.
It was 28th, by the way.
May 28th?
It was May 28th.
Okay, May 28th.
Yeah. On May 28th, 2016, a Cincinnati zookeeper shot and killed Harambe. Folks, Harambe has happened before, or more recent than the Chiefs lost to the Denver Broncos. Our good gorilla pal.
Our pal.
Harambe.
Our friend. Harambe. Friend of all people.
Which, by the way.
Was murdered, by the way.
By the way. If a child falls into the gorilla pit, you save the child. End of discussion.
Yeah, the Harambe was going to save them.
Now, if you want to debate that, okay. Now, if a grown adult leaps into Harambe's pit saying, I want my life to end, then you let him do it. But the kid fell in there. The kid didn't purposely do that, okay? Yes, they made the right decision. Stop it, you people, about, no, a child deserved to live.
Which of these happened more recently? The Broncos defeating the Kansas City Chiefs or Fetty Wap releasing the album Fetty Wap, which featured the lead single Trap Queen?
Broncos, actually, because Fetty Wap released earlier in 2015.
That song was out earlier, but the album might have come out a little later. Yeah, album came out later.
The single came out earlier?
The song of that song, of course, had the Royals clubhouse in a chokehold that entire year.
Yeah, that entire, I remember that. That was in April or June and July.
Yeah. No, it was a song of the Trap Queen was the song of the summer.
Yeah.
Yes, Trap Queen was released in 2014.
Yeah.
The self-titled debut album Fetty Wap was released on September 25th, 2015, 8 days after the Broncos last beat the Chiefs. It was September 17th of 2015, by the way, that Bronco game.
Okay.
What happened more recently? The Denver Broncos beating the Kansas City Chiefs or the Star Wars franchise returning to the big screen with Star Wars The Force Awakens?
You have to answer this because it's also on my list.
The Star Wars happened more recently than that, right?
December 17th.
Yeah.
Of
Star
2015.
Wars.
Exactly 3 months. Man, I saw that movie twice. I rarely go see movies in theaters. I saw that movie in theaters twice. I freaking loved it. That's a good one.
How about this? What was more recent? Broncos win or Pokemon Go absolutely takes over the world?
Pokemon Go. That was summer of 2016.
Yeah, it was summer of 2016.
Yeah. July of 2016, I believe.
Pokemon Go happened more recent. Folks.
Similarly, that time that Hillary Clinton said, I wish people would Pokemon go to the polls also happened after that Bronco game. All right, which has happened more recently? The Broncos defeated the Kansas City Chiefs or our good pal Sepp Blatter resigns as the president of FIFA?
I think the Broncos beat the Chiefs because I think Blatter did that in early May.
Dan?
I'm gonna go with the resignation happening first.
June 2nd of 2015, Sepp Blatter steps down in the midst of a corruption investigation.
Remember that.
Last one.
Okay.
Which happened more recently? The Denver Broncos beating the Kansas City Chiefs or the series finale of How I Met Your Mother?
How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, I think I saw this one last night.
That happened in 2014.
Really?
What?
Wow.
Wow.
You would have got me with that one.
Yep, good
wow.
job. These are great. I love I love all of these.
Either of you watch How I Met Your Mother?
Yeah, I like
No,
that show. I
never
like the
watched it.
show.
I never thought it was very funny.
I liked it. That'll do it for a little stroll down. When was the last time the Broncos beat the Chiefs?
Been a minute, folks.
Fantastic. Coming up next, we got What Is Wrong With You?
Find a winner in What Is Wrong With You, shall we? Brought to you by Top City Metal Supply here on 580 Sports Talk. Our winner for the week from yesterday's show, woman who threw a sausage twice at a gas station cashier in the midst of a brouhaha that also saw the two of them yell racial slurs at each other.
Woman threw a sausage from the roller, so piping hot sausage.
Yeah.
And the tongs.
Yeah, that's funny. That's the insult to injury. The tongs.
The cashier returned fire by throwing the sausage at the woman's car, at which point the woman threw the sausage and a can of Coke back at the cashier. When police were called, the woman did not leave, instead taunting the cashier for 8 minutes.
That's so good. That's so good. Roller food, yay or nay?
Yay.
Yeah, I think I'm a yay. Too
Yeah,
on that.
I trust it. No problem.
My story for today. I originally had one that made me a lot more mad than this one. It was a terrible person doing a terrible thing. This one is also a terrible person, but it's a little bit funnier. We head to Florida, where a woman is facing a felony charge after allegedly shoving a bag of dog poop in the face of an elderly neighbor.
Oh, man.
28-year-old Kaylee Robertson was arrested Sunday morning. The Lord's morning, come on. After a confrontation at the mobile home park where she and the 76-year-old victim live in separate residences. According to a complaint charging Robertson, she's been charged with battery on a victim 65 years or older, and she became upset with her neighbor, Daniel Powell, who, quote, would always speak with her while she walked her dog. Robertson, according to the police, took an unsecured bag of dog feces and pushed it into Powell's face, leaving the feces smeared on his face and the bag on the ground. The dog waste bag matched those in the defendant's possession, and she ultimately did admit to the battery. She was released from jail after posting $2,500 bond on Monday and pled not guilty to the third-degree felony. You should have added 2 more zeros onto that bond amount. $2,500, not nearly high enough.
No, smearing dog poop in somebody's face, that's got to be a felony.
Awful.
That's got to be like a first-degree felony.
Absolutely awful. What do they mean by the neighbor, the 76-year-old, would always speak with her while she walked her dog? Does that mean he was being creepy and catcalling her? Because at the very least, like, I kind of get where she'd be coming from.
Yeah.
Or was just saying, howdy, neighbor. Wonderful weather we're having.
Right.
And she just snapped.
Is that a good boy on the leash? Are they being a good boy? Like, I wouldn't talk to a neighbor walking a dog all the time. But yeah, if he's being a creep, that does change the equation on this. Like, we do need more detail.
Still can't rub poop in his face.
No, that's bad deal.
But that's a little over the top, Ms. Robertson.
Not only is my story also a Florida story.
Please tell me it's not also a poop story.
It is not also a poop story. It is also based, just like our current champion, in Ocala, Florida.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
What a week for Ocala.
Big week for Ocala. We meet 52-year-old Kendall Doyle Gawney, who he's got ESPN numbers. 30 for 30 felonies. He's been convicted of felonies 29 times, and now he's made it 30 after he shot down a drone that a sheriff's office was using at a crime scene. Gawney took a plea deal and pleaded guilty to possession of a firearm as a convicted felon. I don't know if you know this. That's against the law.
Yep.
According to the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Middle District of Florida, he faces 10 years in federal prison. The Fed said Lake County Sheriff's deputies responding to a burglary at a 10-acre property were using a drone to help search it until it was destroyed by gunfire from a neighboring property. Man, what a shot. This goes all the way back. This goes back 2 years. This dates back to 2021. The deputies went next door, found Gawney, and said he admitted that he had just shot down the drone with a .22 caliber rifle. He claimed the drone had been harassing him. Gawney then admitted to the deputies that he could not lawfully possess the firearm because he was a convicted felon. Authorities checked the record and indeed found 29 prior felony convictions in the state of Florida, including crimes such as aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer, resisting arrest with violence, drug possession, burglary, and, you'll never believe it, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon.
Can't do that.
Gawney is also prohibited from possessing firearms and ammunition under federal law. A sentencing date has not been set. So the plea deal makes it 30 felonies. Nice round number.
I wouldn't commit 30 felon. I wouldn't commit 1, but I certainly would not commit 30.
You like those round numbers with the counting stats, right? Like, it took Fred McGriff forever to get to the Hall of Fame because he only had 493 home runs. He didn't get to 500. Like, Dale Murphy's still waiting. If he had 400 home runs, maybe he wouldn't still be waiting on his call from the Hall, but he's sitting on 399.
We talk about, having a 40-40 season or a 30-30 season. They ain't talking about a 29-38 season. You want to get that round number.
Yes.
Yeah, this is brutal. This is really bad. At that point, that's just your job, right? Like you if you have to put on your application, like, what are your previous positions? Like criminal.
Yes.
Felon.
That is the definition of career criminal.
And as always, do not commit a crime while in the process of committing another crime. By the way, since it is such a big week for Ocala, some of the most notable residents or natives of Ocala, Florida, former Minnesota Vikings and Miami Dolphins quarterback Dante Culpepper.
Okay.
Professional wrestling legend Dory Funk Jr.
Sure.
As well as pop rock band The Royal Guardsmen, most well known for their Christmas song, Snoopy versus the Red Baron.
They did a lot of songs about Snoopy.
Snoopy versus the Red Baron. The Return of the Red Baron. Snoopy for President. And another Christmas song, Snoopy's Christmas.
Hey, man, Under Oath and A Day to Remember are from there. Oh,
Hey.
yeah. John Travolta lives there.
Really?
Yeah.
Actually, that tracks. I can see John Travolta being a Florida guy. That makes a lot of sense. Who we got for today? Who's our winner? We got the 30-time felon or the woman who rubbed poop in the face of a man 3 times her age?
You know, I'm going to have to go with the 30-time felon because that woman might have been justified.
Yeah, but there's a key missing detail here. And I want to know how justified she was.
If this is just like the friendly neighborhood gentleman who's always standing outside wearing like a fedora every day, tipping his hat and going, "Milady, and how are you on this fine day? And how is your dog? Would your dog like a treat?" And the woman just snapped and rubbed dog poop in his face. Nah, man, under the jail. But maybe this guy was just a perv.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I can understand, again, maybe where she was coming from. There's an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Mac and Dennis move to the suburbs. They need to find somewhere affordable, and they move to the suburbs. And they've got a neighbor named Wally, who's an older guy, who every day says, "Ooh, it's a hot one, isn't it?" And at some point, Dennis just snaps and screams at him. And he yells at him every time he sees him. That's kind of what I imagined this being. Like, "Oh, hi there. Dog's looking good this morning. Poop in the face." Can't have that. All right, so we'll go with the 30-time felon as today's winner. The mugshot's looking progressively worse for him, by the way. Kind of looks like Alan Jackson fell on hard times in the first one on the far left. Looks not like that in subsequent pictures. And he's got a lot of them, including a shirtless one. Generally, they make you put on like what they have at the barber.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to catch the hair. They put one of those on.
Hair in various states of unruliness.
Yeah. Man, doesn't have a comb.
Got a gun.
Yeah, he's got a gun.
He can only own one of those things.
One at a time. All right, that's our winner for today. But does that take down the sausage hurler?
She taunted them for 8 minutes.
Just standing there.
Threw a can of Coke at them and then taunted them.
It just, the fact that it was so many different odds and ends. We had tongs, a sausage, a can of Coke.
Sausage getting thrown 3 times.
I
You think they put it back on the roll?
Oh, God. Well, I wouldn't put it past them. That's so nasty, though. So nasty. Ew.
I'm sorry, I even brought that up.
Ew. Do not go to, well, what store was it? Was it a 7-Eleven?
The Quick King, Quick Shop, something like that.
Quick King. Quick with a KW. Quick King. Yeah, don't go to the Quick King on Northeast 36th Avenue in Ocala, just in case. Give the rollers a couple dates to unwind from that.
Hopefully they wash the tongs.
God,
at
I
the
hope
very
so.
least.
God, I hope so. That's our winner for the week once again in What Is Wrong With You, which as always is brought to you by our good friends at Top City Metal Supply. They cut the metal you need to your specifications. That saves you time, money, and material. So never settle when it comes to your metal at Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field, right here in the capital city. Coming up on the other side of this break, we've got this week's edition of the Wildcat Wrap-Up. Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com joins us right here on 580 Sports Talk. It's always a big Kansas State victory when we are joined by Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com for the Wildcat Wrap-up here on 580 Sports Talk. Go follow Fitz on Twitter, @LifeOfFitz is his handle. Go check out his phenomenal work covering the Cats and the work of his entire crew over at GoPowerCat.com. Joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. How are you, Fitz? How you doing?
I'm good. I need a nap.
Don't we all? Just a nice midday relaxation period. I think that we need to build that back in. Back in the early days of modern Western civilization, people slept more during the middle of the day. I think we can all use that.
You know, this is a true story. When we had our office in Aggieville, guys would go like, "I'm really tired, boss." I'm like, "Take a nap." You know, we were a nap-friendly environment. If you needed to rest, we had couches in the back. Go lay down, man. Both Scott Fritchen and I had places to sleep inside of our offices. I had a couch. He had a recliner. We were a very nap-endorsed work environment, and it worked well for us.
This is why I also like to come to work late so I can sleep in. I also pro sleep in that regard. Fitz, what's the feeling of the nation? What's the pulse of K-State Nation right now? That loss on Friday this past week left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. I know there was a lot of consternation about the starting quarterback and about the secondary and about why isn't this offensive line as good as it was billed? Why did we struggle again in Stillwater? What is the general feeling about this year's version of K-State right now?
As a big guy, I have to harken back to my childhood to remember this feeling. But you know that feeling when you walk out on ice over a body of water, whether it's a river or a pond, whatever it is, and you're out there and you're like, is this going to be okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's the feeling K-State fans have. They feel like they're walking out onto the ice and they could drop through it and be a disaster at any moment, or maybe they'll be just fine and they'll get to where they need to go because the ice is solid enough. We're going to find out what K-State's got. Do they respond to not just a loss at Oklahoma State, but just a dreadful performance, a performance in which they didn't even look invested in what they were there to do, which is to play football. It looks like they were annoyed by the fact they had to play a football game. And, you know, the coaches put players in better positions. Will we see some new players? There's a lot of storylines going into this, but, man, the bottom line is, will they play with more passion and be more focused on the task at hand? Because Tech's better than Oklahoma State, and they just lost at Oklahoma State.
Will Howard has received a bunch of flack in the last few days, and I think it is both fair to say he has probably not lived up to the expectations he set for himself last year in full, and he's had a problem turning the ball over. But also, I mean, the problems go far beyond what Will Howard has done so far, and he's had some really bright moments as well. So where do you land on Will Howard right now? I know there's always, someone is always clamoring for the backup, and the backup is the most popular guy on campus, and that is especially true when he was a pretty freaking big deal as a recruit, Kansas kid, all that with Avery Johnson. Where do you land on Howard right now? And maybe the better way to ask this question is just, how long is the leash for Will Howard right now?
Yeah. I think if he throws another interception, and it's clearly his fault, they might yank it. If he throws one and it's kind of like, what went wrong there? Maybe it's a tip ball, that you really can't blame him on. Maybe he stays in. But I think Chris Kleiman has great faith in him, but he also knows that faith can only go so far. He's got to play better. Will Howard said yesterday at our press conference with the football program that he hasn't played well, and he was awful at Oklahoma State. He admits it. He hasn't played the way he needs to play, and maybe this will get him back online and get him up and running. I also don't think it's all his fault, and the fact that I don't think K-State's receivers are very good right now. I don't think they've lived up to even the minimal expectations we had for their ability to become playmakers. I just think they're having a lot of communications issues. We're seeing him on the wrong page with senior receiver Phillip Brooks. A snap from senior center, senior center just goes awry. There's so many things going on here. It's hard to put it all on Will Howard, but he's got to play better, and this will be an opportunity to do so. And with all that said, Tech is susceptible to the quarterback run game, so maybe the coaches, whether Will had played well or not, we're going to build in an element of quarterback run game for Avery Johnson.
Tim Fitzgerald, GoPowerCat.com, is our guest weekly for the Wildcat Wrap-up here on 580 Sports Talk. He joins us every Wednesday on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Check out Fitz and the gang at GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, and you can find Fitz on Twitter as well at Life of Fitz. The strangest thing to me, Fitz, about that performance Friday night is it felt like Kansas State had found an offensive identity in the win over UCF. And yeah, UCF is a little lighter in the seat than Oklahoma State in the trenches, but K-State played bully ball to great effect in that home win against UCF. And then they came out of the bye and they were asking Will Howard. I think they're asking too much of him and those receivers in the passing game, and maybe just need to simplify some of the routes, simplify some of the concepts, and maybe not ask Will Howard to make NFL caliber throws on first down. That was the part that really stood out to me. What's been the reaction to the game plan from Oklahoma State? And what do Chris Kleiman and Colin Klein need to fix about that?
Well, here's a warning that KU needs to hear. UCF's defense against the run is so bad, they make you think you're the greatest run blocking and running team ever to exist in college football. They're dreadful. They can't tackle. They don't have gap awareness. They're really struggling. And I think K-State went to Oklahoma State thinking, yeah, we just ran it on UCF. We're going to run it on Oklahoma State. No big deal. And then they couldn't. And then all that confidence just went out the window. But let's be really honest here. UCF is not a good way to judge your blocking and running abilities because they're that bad. So don't get overly confident. Go in there knowing you got to earn every yard. It's been a long time since I've covered a K-State football team that went into a game and they just expected to win. They just thought they were going to win and then move on to the next game, and didn't happen. And hopefully they get that reset and get the expectations in line with reality, which is every game in this conference is brutal, and this one won't be any different at Texas Tech.
There was a lot of reaction to post-game that this is just life in the Big 12 if you don't have the upper echelon talent. And Kansas State never, is going to recruit at the level of Texas and Oklahoma and have a bunch of five-star players. But K-State had 4 NFL guys on their roster last year. And I don't know that they have anybody outside of Cooper Beebe on this roster who's a given to start next season on an NFL roster, the way that Felix Anudike-Uzomah has, the way that Deuce Vaughn has, the way that Juju Brents did. So is this just kind of what it's fair to expect, that this is reality when you don't have the NFL caliber talent that you can just get got? And sometimes you get got in a game where you're a double-digit favorite because it's a road game on a Friday night.
Yep, I think that's really well put. I think we saw a team that just, they've always had the answer. Well, the answer quite typically was Deuce Vaughn on offense or Felix Anudike-Uzomah on defense, and those answers weren't there against them. I just want to point out that I have this high level of disappointment that for the last 3 years we called him Julius Brents, when we could have been calling him Juju Brents, which is so much cooler. I mean, I like Julius. It's a very historical name, but Juju is very cool. I'm really disappointed that popped up in the NFL, not at college.
That's a fact. We're talking to Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. This is Wildcat Wrap-up here on 580 Sports Talk. So it's onward and upward to Texas Tech. It's another tough road game. It's a better team on paper than Oklahoma State. Where do you like this matchup for Kansas State, and where are you wary of this matchup for Kansas State?
Well, with all respect to Texas Tech, I'm solely focused on Kansas State, and I'm worried because, did Oklahoma State expose anything here that K-State can't overcome, or doesn't quite understand how to adapt to, or is this just all a mental breakdown by K-State to not be as focused as they need to be? But I'll say this, I think this is a really good opportunity for K-State to come out and run the ball with the quarterback, because as our Ryan Wallace pointed out on the pregame show that I've been taping all day, they're just bad at stopping the quarterback run game. And like Will Howard can do it, but certainly that's Avery Johnson's strength at this point of his career. So maybe that's something we see a lot of. But again, it's a second week in a row with a night game. That's a blackout on the road in the conference. They've just got to handle the environment better because Coach Kleiman said that there were some young guys that frankly got rattled, and Texas Tech is a pretty hostile environment.
Defensively, there were some struggles early on for Kansas State in that game, and they continue to be a little too susceptible, certainly, to the big play. But they dug their heels in, only gave up 9 points in the second half of that game in Stillwater. Was there something from that second half performance defensively to build on, particularly with a pretty green group in the back seven, given the injuries to Jacob Parrish and Will Lee at cornerback and the previously discussed injury issues they've had at linebacker?
Well, Oklahoma State moved the ball pretty much at will between the 20s. They got up and down the field, and that was a big reason. The big reason why was K-State was so backed off in coverage. They just gave up a lot of short passes. And Oklahoma State went 15 plays in that first drive for a touchdown. They just chipped away and chipped away. But you get into that compressed field inside the red zone, and you can't back up as far. The defense gets tighter. The field gets more crowded. They stop things. They only gave up 1 touchdown in this game, and Oklahoma State kicked 6 field goals. 1 was blocked and 5 were made. That's a pretty good effort. The other touchdown being an interception by Will Howard. They have to give up less yardage. They can't be gashed by the run because that's something Tech does really well. And we'll just see if they can be more efficient and get more pressure on the quarterback. Because at the end of the game, they had 0 sacks, and at the end of the day, that doesn't cut it. They got to be better at pressuring the quarterback than they were last weekend.
Final couple of questions for Tim Fitzgerald. He joins us at this time every Wednesday for the Wildcat Wrap-up here on 580 Sports Talk, talking all things Kansas State Wildcats athletics on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Go check out all of Fitz's work at gopowercat.com. And, of course, you can go follow him. You should follow him on Twitter. At Life of Fitz is his handle over there. When you mention getting gashed and these big plays that the defense has given up, Fitz, the explosives to me are the biggest concern maybe for any individual position group. And I think we knew going into this year that with so much less experience at the cornerback spots, and we know you lose multiple guys to the NFL at that spot from that same position group, you're probably going to have a learning curve for the new guys, even if you've got a lot of faith in them. Can anything be done in a pinch to try to, I don't know, I don't want to be too harsh the way I say this, but to improve that caliber of play, so at the very least, you're limiting the number of explosives instead of being as big of a weakness as it is right now?
I think we saw them limit explosive last week by just backing up and letting you complete a lot of short passes and run the ball. And yeah, they got away with no explosives. Yeah, you lost the football game. So they're going to have to find a balance here. And you're right, playing this game, without Lee and Parrish, they're starting corners that, were filling in, took over from 2 guys that went on to the NFL. So now you're down another level. I think it makes it important for Kansas State to kind of come after the quarterback. Don't let him sit there and look around the field to find a receiver, which is what they did with Alan Bowman at Oklahoma State. They made a bad quarterback look decent. Even with no pressure, he was just decent. They should have pressured more. And maybe took some more chances. You can't go so conservative that you can't play football, and that's basically what happened to K-State.
How much faith do you have in this pass rush to be able to get after the quarterback enough to keep winning games?
I think they're fine. I think they can do that. I just don't think they wanted to bring much blitz. They didn't want to bring anything too exotic, and it showed. They were very dry and boring on defense, and they gave up too many yards, and at the end of the day, too many points. It didn't hold up the way you expect a K-State defense to hold up, and they're going to have to change that, not just for this game Saturday at Lubbock, but throughout the rest of the season if they want to have a chance to, play in a really good bowl game.
All right, Fitz, what's it going to take for K-State to get the job done on Saturday, and can they get the job done on Saturday? As you mentioned earlier, it's a tough matchup, another blackout game, and anyone who knows anything about the Big 12 knows that weird things happen under the lights in Lubbock. What's it going to take for K-State to come away with the win, and will they?
Yeah, I think they will, and they're just going to have to go in there and get back to their, road warrior mentality that they've carried. They just haven't seemed like the same team, been intimidated by environments. This will be intimidating. But I think they're the better team. I think they'll come out more focused. I think they learned their lesson. And I don't think it'll be pretty, but I think they'll get out of there with a win, as long as Texas Tech doesn't kill K-State in special teams, which is a weird thing to say about K-State, but Tech holds a giant advantage in special teams in this game.
Outside of K-State momentarily here, Fitz, before we let you go, Gonzaga to the Big 12 talk has ramped up again. We've gotten the explanation for why. I still don't really know that it's a great decision to bring this up right now after what the college sports world has been through the last 2 years. But what do you make, heads or tails, of the latest report that Brett Yormark is trying to woo Gonzaga?
I think Gonzaga will eventually be invited to a conference, maybe the Big 12, but I don't think this is happening anytime soon. I think it is a weird distraction from football. Imagine the ADs aren't real happy that this has come up in football. Can we focus on football here for a little while? But I think there will be a basketball-only addition to the conference as long as they can prove to the networks that they need to have a separate basketball contract from football, and that'll be financially beneficial to the Big 12. But we're just starting next season a new TV contract, and I don't know where the money for Gonzaga would come from or why you would add one school to a 16-team conference in football to become 17. Makes no sense.
No, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And we heard about that, too, in the initial report this week, right? That, hey, the ADs and presidents were kind of taken aback, like, hey, we're still trying to figure out the money now. Why are you trying to make more financial moves? I just feel like that's the kind of thing that is going to make a generally pretty conservative part of the population, when you talk about higher ed administrators, go into that conservative shell even more.
Yeah, I agree. Doesn't make sense. And I think someday it will, but not now. I mean, not now. Let them settle into the 16-school conference. And if the ACC blows up in the next 12 months, there's schools available, then you go. Then you do it. But not right now. This is just slow down, Brett. I know you're a go, go, go kind of guy, but take a seat for just a little while and take a breather.
Nobody covers K-State better than Tim Fitzgerald and the crew at GoPowerCat.com. Head to GoPowerCat as part of the 24/7 Sports Network. You absolutely want to be a VIP. It is 100% worth the price. They've got deals all the time, too. Absolutely worth it over there. Go follow Fitz on Twitter as well, at Life of Fitz. We appreciate the time as always, Fitz. Thanks so much, and enjoy the game in Lubbock coming up on Saturday.
Great to hear from you, boys.
That is the one, the only Tim Fitzgerald joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. We've got 1 hour left of the show coming up, and it's coming up right after the news. now, final hour of 580 Sports Talk on a Wednesday afternoon. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks, as always, to Tim Fitzgerald for stopping by and spending some time with us as well for the Wildcat Wrap-up. If you missed our conversation with Fitz or any of 580 Sports Talk today, just head to our website. That's 580wibw.com. Go to the podcasts tab and then click on 580 Sports Talk. And that's where you'll find the hour-by-hour version of the show broken down nice and easily for you. You can listen back to anything we have talked about on the show today. You can also, of course, go to our YouTube channel. 580 Sports Talk is what it is called. Same name as the show. Nice and easy to find on YouTube. You can check out the show live as it streams, video and all. Hop into the comment section with everyone else who's watching along. Or if you missed any of the show, go back and rewind. You can check out any of the show that way as well on our YouTube channel, which again is called 580 Sports Talk. We're still taking your comments on the YouTube feed and on the text line. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. Coming up in this final hour of the show, we will get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines here momentarily. We will also hear from Bill Self and Travis Goff. They spoke to the media a little bit earlier. We already have a statement from Travis Goff, so I chopped off the part where he spoke at the beginning. We've already essentially got that, but we have Bill's self-statement and a bunch of questions from the media as well. About 15 minutes of that press conference coming up here in just a little bit, and we will react to that as well. But without further ado, let's get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today, and we will start with the Chiefs injury report for Thursday Night Football coming up tomorrow night. Chiefs hosting the Denver Broncos. For the Chiefs, three listed as questionable. They include Tommy Townsend with a left knee injury. He was not on the practice report all week until today when he was limited. He is officially questionable for the game. George Karlaftis dealing with a hamstring. He was limited all week. He's questionable, as is, unsurprisingly, Travis Kelce. Didn't practice Monday in the Chiefs' estimation. They didn't have a full practice that day. Limited today and yesterday. He is questionable, but we heard from Patrick Mahomes yesterday. We know he is going to give it a go as best as he possibly can give it a go for tomorrow night's game. Everybody else who is limited at any point this week, they are raring to go, ready to go. That includes Nick Bolton, full participant today, Chiefs inside linebacker. No status update for the game. He is good to go coming up tomorrow night. As for the Denver Broncos, not quite as rosy. They have one player who is questionable. That is tight end Greg Dulcich, who just recently returned from the injured reserve. Was fine Monday, limited yesterday, full participant today. He is questionable for tomorrow night's game. Three players are out. DJ Jones, defensive tackle, did not practice all week. He is out. Baron Browning, limited with a knee issue all week, but was not at any point good enough to go. He is not going to play tomorrow. And old pal Frank Clark will also be out and inactive for the game after not practicing for the second day in a row because he has an illness. If I know anything about Frank Clark, it is that he is going to play his best football when you get to January, and he is going to miss games because he is sick during the year. It is just written in the stars. Was he sick when he was with the Seahawks?
I don't remember him being ill this often. I have no idea what's happened. But you can almost set your watch to it.
It's so strange. But that is your participation report for today at Chiefs practice and Broncos practice, and an update on who is for sure in, who might be out, and who's questionable heading into Thursday Night Football.
Javonte Williams going to play. That's a big deal for Denver. They get their feature running back. I don't know how effective he'll be, A, off the injury, B, I mean, he is coming off of a ACL.
Mm-hmm.
They really like the kid, McLaughlin, that's playing a lot.
Yeah.
Scored a touchdown for them last week. So they might go with two different guys getting carries in that backfield. But again, I mean, you want to make the running game not matter. Go score a bunch of points on that poo-butt defense. Like that's I think Williams and McLaughlin might be the two best offensive players for the Broncos. It's certainly not any of their pass catchers. Jerry Jeudy has spent the better part of the last week feuding with former Broncos on Twitter, which is a great use of his time.
Always good.
Yeah, that's always what you want. That's what you want your former first-round pick wide receiver to be up to. Marvin Mims having a good year, but they hardly use him on offense at this point. So, yeah, it's just really hard to know what to expect from the Broncos other than they're not good. And I don't know how on a short week they're going to turn around and address all the things that appear to be wrong with them through the first 5 games.
Because there are a lot of them.
Yes, it's quite a list. It is indeed quite a list.
Javonte Williams, good player, though.
Yes, a nice player, and I hope that he does come back to his pre-ACL form because I really liked him. But we'll see how effective that he will be. We have a texter from 316 that points out the improbability, let's be kind, of Frank Clark playing in January for the Denver Broncos this year.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That is a 100% fair point.
Continuing with our 580 Sports Talk headlines, let's go ahead and keep with the NFL injury news. It now sounds like a month or two on the sideline for Anthony Richardson, the rookie quarterback for the Colts. He was placed on injured reserve, and it sounds like it's going to be 4 to 8 weeks, depending on whether or not he needs surgery on his right shoulder. He's sprained his AC joint, and the absence now is believed to be between 4 to 8 weeks, depending on whether or not he's going to need that surgery. So at minimum, he will miss games against Jacksonville, Cleveland, New Orleans, and the Panthers. The earliest he could return off of IR would be for their game in Frankfurt, Germany against the New England Patriots. Colts are 3-2, and they've got a reliable backup in Gardner Minshew and a big game in Jacksonville against the Jaguars this Sunday. Devin Achane on injured reserve. The Dolphins had spoken yesterday and said they expected their star rookie running back to miss multiple weeks, and now that is confirmed as he has been placed on injured reserve. This is a big deal if you are the Chiefs because you will not have to contend with Devin Achane.
Yeah.
He will miss the Chiefs matchup with the Dolphins in Frankfurt, Germany. Miami hosts the Panthers this week. Then they've got the Eagles, Patriots, and Chiefs in their next 3 games after that. And that will be the minimum amount of time that Achane misses with that knee injury.
That sucks because he's awesome. He is a blast to watch play, and he's fast as hell. The Richardson news is especially bummer, though, because this whole year for him and for the rookies was about what is he? Can he be an NFL quarterback, or is he just an NFL caliber athlete? What is he? What can he be? And I was really looking forward to getting to see more of Anthony Richardson. So that is a huge bummer that he is going to miss a pretty substantial amount of time in his rookie season. By the way, while we're talking about some notes from the NFL, did you see the shirt that George Kittle wore this weekend?
I certainly did. I didn't catch it watching the game live, probably because I turned the game off. But yes, certainly saw the picture of George Kittle wearing we'll call it a bit of a throwback. Looked like a mid-90s design with the Cowboy star and the word Dallas and another word above the star and the word Dallas that we can't say on the radio.
Yep. Began with F, ended similarly to fire truck, but it ain't fire truck, folks. No. Yeah, pretty brazen to do that, I will be honest. But
that was a wild move.
That's kind of George Kittle's thing. In an interview Monday this week, Kittle was on the Pat McAfee show and said he, quote, might have been mildly inspired by 49ers linebacker Gary Plummer, who wore a similar T-shirt during the 1994 NFC Championship game. So there you go. The NFL, however, is considering fining Kittle for the shirt with the profane message. Under the terms of the NFL's fine schedule, personal messages carry a fine of nearly $11,000.
That's one expensive T-shirt.
Oh, a very expensive T-shirt.
My wife gives me grief for spending $35 on a T-shirt, but $11,000, that's steep.
Micah Parsons was not thrilled about it. He said, quote, I just feel like he's making it way more personal than it had to be. Kittle's my guy, but I'm going to say this. Laugh now, cry later. We got something for that. Just trust. If we see them again, just trust. You're going to make it personal? We can make it personal. One day later, Deebo Samuel, he said that San Francisco also took note of some of the things the Cowboys had said before the game, adding, quote, it was already personal before the game started, and now, 42-10, I don't think you want to see us again. It might be a little bit worse. Yeah, I get why Micah Parsons is chatting it up here, because A, that's just who he is, and B, I feel a little disrespected, I'm sure. You got your asses beat, my man. Maybe not the time to talk.
Yeah. Just don't talk about the next time when you lose by 32 points.
Yeah, maybe not the right approach here. Should we get to the playoff roundup for today?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do the Major League Baseball playoff roundup. We are up to 18 games played in the baseball playoffs and 16 duds because yesterday's games were both over by the second inning. We were talking about it while we were on the air, but Houston made their big early lead stand up in what ended up a 9-1 victory over the Minnesota Twins, putting the Astros on the verge of the ALCS for a 7th straight season, I believe. They're on quite a run. They're up 2-1 in that best of 5. Game 4 tonight, 7:07 Eastern, so 6:07 Central Time. First pitch. That game will be on FS1. Last night's game, the Texas Rangers jumped out to a 6-0 second inning lead, and they never looked back. They destroyed and eliminated the Baltimore Orioles. 101 wins for the Orioles, 0 postseason wins. 3 teams in the postseason from the American League East. They win a combined 0-7. Texas is on to the ALCS for the first time since 2012 as they finish off that sweep of the Orioles. They are the first team in to the championship series round. Game number 19 of the playoffs is underway, and folks, we are on our way to dud number 17. The Phillies have put up a 6 spot in the bottom of the 3rd and lead the Braves 6-1 in game 3 of that National League Division Series. One of the most predictable postseason home runs, maybe in the history of baseball. I'm sitting here, I'm watching the game. I've got the game up on a monitor in here. And Bryce Elder, the starting pitcher for the Braves, he looked pretty solid through 2 innings. Got a 1-0 lead in the top of the 3rd. Instantly gave that lead back. Leadoff home run for Nick Castellanos. And then there were 2 on with 2 out. And Bryce Harper was the batter. And I'm watching Trey Turner's at bat and thinking, if he doesn't get Turner out, they better have a lefty up for Bryce. Because if they don't get a lefty up for Bryce, Bryce is doing what Bryce does in the playoffs. And he's hitting a tank. And oh, did he ever hit a tank? Second deck, the distance on it, I'm going to pull it up on game day here. 408 feet, 109.5 miles an hour off the bat. An absolutely terrible pitch. Just a floating changeup in the middle of the plate.
We've had a lot of that this postseason.
Yes, we have.
A lot of just really bad pitches.
Bryce Harper sent it to hell. That made it 4-1. Somehow, Elder was left in to face the next 2 hitters, both of whom reached. Reliever Michael Tonkin promptly gave up a 2-run double to JT Realmuto. So 6-1 Phillies. The 3rd inning is finally mercifully, if you're the Braves, over with. So we are headed towards another game that you don't really have to check in on if you're not inclined to. And the Phillies are headed towards a 2-1 lead in that National League Division Series. The other NLDS game tonight will start at 8:07 Central Time, Arizona and Los Angeles. If the Diamondbacks win, they will eliminate the Dodgers. We have spoken, you and I, about this playoff format. We're in year 2 of the playoff format. And if this score holds in Philadelphia, then we would be 1 Phillies win and 1 Diamondbacks win away from 2 years of this new postseason format. 6 teams that have won 100 games, and none of those teams reaching the championship series. I am of the view that that's not great for baseball because it disincentivizes trying to build a 100-win team, which you should be trying to do because you should be trying to build a Leviathan. You should be trying to build the best team you can build instead of hoping that your 84-win team sneaks in and then a bunch of bullpen randos get hot, which is basically what's happening for the Diamondbacks right now. But the other part of it is this, and this is unique to this year, that the 100-win teams kind of not awesome when it comes to their pitching staffs. The Braves, for all of their offensive fireworks this year, they were in the middle of the pack in earned run average in the National League this year, struggled in September, and had to start Bryce Elder in game 3 of this series. And that did not go awesome for them, as we just talked about. The Orioles started Kyle Gibson, Grayson Rodriguez, and Dean Kramer in their 3 playoff games. And if you had told me a playoff team was going to start those 3 guys in their first 3 playoff games, I would tell you, you can go ahead and make other plans for the night of game 4 because there ain't going to be a game 4. The Dodgers are down to the corpse of Clayton Kershaw's left arm and a rookie in Bobby Miller. And tonight they are starting Lance Lynn. Do you know how many home runs Lance Lynn gave up this year?
400. He was awful.
You're close. He gave up 44 home runs this year.
Oh, my God.
That's the guy the Dodgers are handing the ball to with their season on the brink tonight. So I think that this year, this is less about the unfairness of the playoff format, or we're not sufficiently rewarding the teams who had the best regular season. I think that is a conversation worth having. But also, the teams that had great regular seasons got to the playoffs and ended up with kind of threadbare pitching staffs, at least in the case of the Dodgers, who might be about to get swept, and the Orioles, who did get swept. Now, the Braves are at least going to be able to turn back to Spencer Strider at some point in this series, and he's awesome. And their game 2 start, and I think they've got Charlie Morton on deck for maybe game 4. Like, they got some guys, but if it's 2 years of this format, there are 6 100-win teams, and we don't get any of them in a best-of-7 series. Like, it's going to be the kind of thing that I think the league probably looks at and says, okay, what do we do to give a little more credit to our teams who are clearly the best in the regular season? I don't know the right answer, but it is fascinating that we are very close to that happening.
I don't know. Like, what? When you take the data from this year and last year, what is the reason behind it? Like, what is the number one way to explain why these teams that were so great for 6 months are now not great? And pitching this year,
there are different things that make you great over 162 games that they matter less in a 5-game series. It's not dissimilar in that way to the NBA, right? Like, there are teams that are really good regular season teams in the NBA. Like, remember the Hawks? When the Atlanta Hawks were the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, or a couple years back when the Jazz with Rudy Gobert were maybe the number 1 or the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. And then you get to the playoffs and you don't have you have a lot of good players, which helps you in the dog days, but you don't have dudes.
Yeah.
And that can be a problem in the NBA. That's why they put together the quote unquote super teams. And the Clippers don't care if Kawhi Leonard and Paul George miss games in January, because if you get to March, April, May, those are the guys you win games with because they're dudes.
Yeah.
Baseball's a little different. Nobody would suggest that the Braves don't have dudes. They got 9 dudes in their starting lineup, but you also need dudes to get 27 outs.
Yeah.
And in the Diamondbacks Dodgers series, I like the Diamondbacks starting pitching lines up better than the Dodgers pitching does.
Well, and Kershaw turning into a pumpkin doesn't help either.
Yeah, that's its own thing. Like the Rangers series, Nathan Eovaldi is a certified playoff stud, and he started game 3 last night, and the Orioles started Dean Kramer. Do you know who Dean Kramer is?
Yes, I do, because I remember doing sportscasts for the Kansas Information Network in May or whatever and saying, who the hell is Dean Kramer?
Yes.
When they played the Royals.
But that's the difference. And credit the Rangers. They are the exception this year. They are the team that spent a bunch of money in free agency, and it's worked. And it hasn't even worked as well as they hoped. Like Jacob deGrom had Tommy John surgery. That did really work out great. But they spent a lot of money on Corey Seager, and nobody can get him out. They spent a lot of money on Marcus Semien. He's one of the best second basemen in the game. They spent a lot of money on acquiring Max Scherzer, and he could be back for them in the championship.
Yeah, that'd be a big deal.
Yeah, if they get him and John Gray back, they're going to be able to line up real legitimate starting pitchers instead of, well, we got a guy that can maybe get us 9 outs, and then we're going to cross our fingers and hope our bullpen can carry us, and then do that 4 more times. That's kind of where the Orioles were. That's kind of where the Dodgers were going into game 2 of their series. It's kind of where the Braves were today. So that's what explains it. It really, you can have 2 conversations at once. You can say that this year, the 100-win teams that came into the playoffs were flawed in such a way that made them susceptible in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to accept that the playoffs are different than the regular season, then that's fine. You get what you get. But if you'd like for the regular season, the longest regular season, the one that has historically mattered the most, because for decades and decades of the sport's history, only the best team in each league made the playoffs. And then for another decade, for 3 decades after that, it was only the 2 best teams or the 2 division winners made the playoffs. If you'd like to give a little more weight to the regular season, I understand feeling that way too. Me personally, I would just like a good game. I would just like to be able to go home and turn on a game and be like, oh, this is riveting. This is exciting.
Yeah.
This is what I want October baseball to be. These are all duds.
No,
that sucks.
Night after night, when I see, well, maybe I'll put the baseball game out. No, not really a reason to. It's all good. Twitter has filled me in. The Score app has filled me in.
The Braves, by the way, go quietly in the fourth. Aaron Nola, speaking of dudes, on the mound for Philadelphia.
Certifiable.
He did not have a great year this year, but he is adding zeros to his free agent contract with every strikeout so far today. 7 in 4 innings.
Pay attention, Royals. Pay attention, Kansas City
Price
Royals.
of the brick going up.
That does it for today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. When we come back on the other side of this break, we are going to hear from KU Director of Athletics Travis Goff and KU men's basketball coach Bill Self. They spoke to the media just about an hour and a half ago regarding the IARP's final ruling on their infractions case. We'll hear what they had to say next on 580 Sports Talk. It's obviously been a big day in the college basketball world, specifically for the Kansas Jayhawks. They finally got their ruling handed down from the IARP, which will cease to exist here shortly. 2018 Final Four banner comes down. 15 losses on the record for Bill Self and the program go by the boards. So KU no longer the winningest program in college basketball history. But I'm going to be honest with you. If you're upset about that, if you believe KU is a national title contender this year, if you believe KU should be the best program in the sport, is the best program in the sport, it'll get there again. It'll get there again. Be confident enough in that. But Bill Self spoke to the media, as did Travis Goff, earlier this afternoon, right around 4 o'clock, in reaction to the news from the IARP today. Travis Goff gave a fairly long, about 3-minute long statement first. We already had a statement from him we read earlier in the show, so we chopped that off. We'll hear from Bill Self, and then both Self and Goff took some questions from the media as well. So with that, let's get to the press conference today from Bill Self and KU Athletic Director Travis Goff in the wake of the IARP's final ruling on their NCAA infractions case.
I'd like to comment on the back of what Travis has said. I'd first like to start by thanking the IRP for their professionalism and the fair review of the facts throughout this entire process. I also want to make sure I express my sincere gratitude to Chancellor Girard and to Travis Goff for their support, leadership, and alignment that exist within our university and our athletic department. And I'm very, very proud to be the head basketball coach here. As Travis said today, as Travis just said, today is a good day for Kansas basketball. And the findings that the panel found reiterate that our staff acted with integrity and honesty and had no knowledge of payments to student athletes. While this has been a very long process, I'm appreciative that it has ended and where it has ended, and I am eager to move forward without this cloud hovering above our program.
Hey, Coach, Shea Willibor, JayhawksLand.com. You said all along for many years that when this was all said and done, that story would come true. How does it feel today? Are you happy with how it all played out? And now that it's over?
Yeah, I'm very happy that it's over. I'm certainly happy with the end results, and at the same time, don't feel like a celebration mode, because this is exactly what we thought the end result would be years ago, and it's taken such a long period of time to get here. But I am pleased with the findings because the findings are accurate.
Travis, Henry Greenstein, Warren Journal World. You mentioned the self-imposed penalties. Now that the case is concluded, I wanted to ask what went into the decisions of selecting those penalties as well as the juncture at which you imposed them?
I think when you rewind back, probably, gosh, it's been 15, 16, 17 months ago when we were discussing at that juncture going into the fall, whether or not to self-impose. I think it was a lot of it was in the spirit of just wanting to move forward, wanting to have finality to this. I think that was an anchor of those discussions. And we used some of the guidelines the NCAA provides in terms of penalties to help align with where we landed with our self-imposed penalties. And it feels as if they were probably on the heavier end of things, but we were willing to do so in order to give everyone the best chance to move forward.
Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41. Coach, did you feel like the vacated wins, the banner, the streak, all the stuff that goes along with that, did you expect that? And do you feel like that was fair?
I actually did feel like it was fair, and I actually felt like it should have been done. By the rule, we had a player participate while ineligible due to an illicit payment that we knew nothing about, but he was still ineligible while participating. So the 15 wins that occurred while Silvio participated in the 2018, he didn't play in 17, but the 2018 spring semester, I believe are warranted to be taken away because that is the rule. And if you take away the wins, you naturally take away a banner because the banner wouldn't have existed without the wins.
Are you guys forced to take it down and all that stuff? How does that work?
Well, I haven't talked to anyone how that works, but it will. I'm sure maintenance will take care of that for us. But that was something that was imposed today. That I certainly expected.
What does this say about the NCAA and this whole period that they went through, where you had some schools, they put the hammer down for seemingly nothing, and then others? Can you talk about the inconsistency and what this did to college athletics?
Go ahead.
I'm not going to speak to, Neil, what's happened at other schools. All I can speak to is what happened and did not happen at the University of Kansas. And certainly we've held true to our initial statements on what we thought did or did not transpire. So, and I'm not going to speak to the NCAA. I'll let Travis do that. But this was certainly a long process. That 6 years seems a long time to get to this point, and we're not the only school that endured this long process, as you know.
I just would add to that when you look at the IARP cases of the last couple years, that there's a degree of consistency with how those were approached in that objective outside lens that they applied to each of those cases.
You know, when you guys did do the self-imposed penalties, particularly the suspension, you couldn't comment on the time because this was ongoing, right? I'm just wondering, you know, from the outside, it seems like when you do have self-imposed penalties, that does imply at least some measure of guilt. What do you think you guys could have done differently?
I don't think it implies a measure of guilt at all. What I think it implies is we were doing everything possible to move forward and put this behind us, and at the same time doing what was in the best interest of our present student athletes and future student athletes to make sure they were not impacted in any negative way whatsoever. I was okay with the self-impositions because as the leader of this program and the head coach, it's my responsibility to protect, preserve, look after our present student athletes and future student athletes in a way that it doesn't impact their experience in any way, shape, or form negatively at the University of Kansas. And so in order to do that, the talks and the self-impositions was a way to make sure or to give us a better chance that occurred.
Then just what have the past 6 years been like?
Well, there's been some good times in the past 6 years. You know, the thing about it is in my coaching journey, I've had a lot of good, and I've had far more good than not good. But you understand, as a coach, you can't expect for it always to be good, and you deal with the things that aren't so good. I've said this many times. I love my profession, and I would rather be doing this and impacting youth than any other thing I could possibly do with my time. So it sucked. But over a course of 35 years, don't you expect to have some periods of time that aren't that great? And so I think that myself and my staff have handled it very maturely, to be honest with you. And we've dealt with this in a way that we're going to go through this. This is how it is. In the short term, it won't last forever, but it's not an excuse to impact how we do our job.
Coach, I'm wondering, just from a recruiting standpoint, 6 years, how impactful could today's decision be or potentially be moving forward?
You know, Shay, I think from a recruiting standpoint, there's no doubt this has impacted recruiting. I'm not sure it's impacted recruiting recently as much as it was 3 or 4 years ago, because the reality of it is I don't think this is as talked about today as what it was, 3 or 4 years ago. So I think, and my staff knows this, I think our recruiting will be impacted favorably, but I don't know if it'll be a huge impact, because I think my staff's still done a pretty good job in the last few years recruiting players that are difference makers here at the University of Kansas.
Bill, I don't want you to go player by player or anything like that, but you've talked a lot about the impact on your kids. And I just wonder, with this group specifically, how happy you are they don't have to hear about this, but also over that time, all those guys that had to answer questions and have this hanging over. I mean, how happy are you for them too?
Well, this group, we met with our group today when we found out what was going on before we knew what the actual findings would be, and told them basically that we didn't know exactly what to expect. And to be honest with you, the vast majority that have been here know that we've been doing this for a while. Some of the players we have actually talked to about during the recruiting process, the young guys, that it doesn't register with them as far as being anything that could impact them. So because it was so long ago, some of these kids were in junior high or maybe the end of elementary school when this started. So I think the players that impacted the most were the ones, in that 19 and 20 or 21 season. But since then, it doesn't feel quite the same to me, because it's been such a long time ago.
Sure. And you mentioned the maturity of your staff. How about those guys, those players, and how they handled it as well? They were asked a lot, obviously, not as much as you probably, but
my staff.
No, your players, those players that you were just talking about.
Oh yeah, well, those guys. When you coach a group of young men, regardless of sport or young ladies, it becomes more than a team; it becomes a family. And so with a family, you deal with ups and you deal with downs. And this is something that we have dealt with, but we've been very straightforward and forthright and honest with our guys and where this is and how it could potentially impact them. And they've handled it like you would think mature young men would. So very, very proud of them because if you go back and look at it, this could be a cloud that you always have something in the back of your mind thinking, well, what if? And they eliminate the what if and press forward. And I think we as a staff had done the same thing. My staff did the same thing as well.
Travis, I know this predates you, but I'm wondering, has this case impacted at all the way you would have coaches interact with interests outside the university, not just Adidas, but like other people who are in that same sort of domain?
Well, I think, Henry, again, we've had a long-standing commitment to rules education, to compliance, and that's really truly been embedded in the culture and the fabric. Certainly when this case presented itself, this department, again, way before my arrival, did a lot of things to continue to enhance the way it viewed, whether it be partners, sponsors, et cetera, but it was just complementing things that were already in place. And so I think as the world of college athletics has evolved, we continue to keep compliance front and center. We've done so in NIL and in every other aspect. And I don't think it's really had a profound change on how we've operated because we've already been at a really high level in that space.
Bill, you've mentioned a cloud a couple times, the cloud of just this hanging over you. I wonder if you feel like at this point with the penalties that have been, I guess, enforced, it was the cloud more of a penalty than anything that you're actually, dealing with.
I think that's
point.
a great question. I would say the unknown was probably as much of a penalty as anything, going a period of time that we did with the unknown and not knowing how to address it or how to attack it. But I'll make one thing clear: the penalties that were imposed today were basically the vacation of wins. The 3 years probation and the other penalties that have been discussed were self-imposed penalties that we knew that we were going to deal with because we had self-imposed those before the ruling ever came out.
Travis, could this happen again? And do you get the sense that maybe there's been so much change at the NCAA level? Do you think that with the changes that they drug your program through the mud for 6 years and you're not the only one. Do you think that the process is going to be expedited so that this doesn't happen again?
Well, I know that's one of the things they're looking at in particular as it relates to NIL is the enforcement process to ensure that, in particular in these more egregious NIL inducement situations, that they have a process that's a lot more efficient. So they're in the throes of, I think, building that out. I'm optimistic that it'll be a much improved, much more efficient, much more timely exercise going forward. So I think that's one of the positives coming out of this long journey and putting a conclusion to the IARP segment of enforcement. And I think there's a chance for it to be better at the end of the day. And I think we're optimistic on that. We will have contributed to a better exercise. Let's put it that way.
I wondered, looking back, the 3-day hearing, how important was that and how professional was the IARP? And when you left after that marathon 3 days, how did you feel?
It was incredibly important, Gary. The team, some of whom are here today, were exceptional in helping us prepare. We've got such a great team within athletics up on campus, certainly the legal team involved. So the significance of preparation, the alignment, it was so important for us to be fully aligned going into that hearing, consistent with our approach. And that's how it played out over the course of those 3 days. And the IRP, I think in particular, you asked about, was incredibly professional and ran, I think, a really effective hearing over that time. You want to add to that?
I agree. I think in today's time, and not that I'm an expert on this, but having a group as aligned as we did under the leadership of our chancellor, and I'm talking about all the different legal teams and everybody that's being represented to go into that. I felt like that it was very important and significant, and certainly was done with great professionalism on all fronts.
So that is Bill Self, and that is Travis Goff, the men's basketball coach and athletic director, respectively, for the University of Kansas. Let's get to a quick timeout. When we come back on the other side of this break, we'll get some final thoughts on what's been a big day for college basketball and for KU, and some thoughts on what Self and Goff had to say as well. That's coming up right after this on 580 Sports Talk. Final few minutes of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan here with you. Thanks for hanging out with us on this Wednesday edition of the show. Coming up tomorrow, we'll talk to Mitch Holthus, voice of the Chiefs. We'll chat with Rick Peterson of TopSports.News. Paul Meyerberg will join us from USA Today for the Big 12 breakdown. All that tomorrow between 2 and 6 right here on 580 WIBW and 580 Sports Talk. Today, the story of the day, Kansas basketball gets its final ruling from the IARP on its NCAA infractions case. That is a lot of letters as part of acronyms. Anything stand out particularly from what Goff and Self just had to say? Like Self says, yeah, I expected the banners and the wins to go away because that's the rules and you follow that. And I think everyone did a very fair job in all of this. I'm not going to say he was lying. I think he does believe that, but I also feel like given some of the answers we heard there was some politicking going on. There was trying not to ruffle any more feathers in the wake of all of this, in the wake of an event in which KU got off better, certainly, than it could have. Look, overall, KU is good. Does it suck that the 2018 Final Four doesn't count anymore? Yeah, it does. But by the same token, we were there. I know it happened. You can say it's not in the record book, but I was there. I watched Villanova hit 18 threes in a game. I watched Grayson Allen shot in the Elite Eight rim out. I saw that crazy Silvio De Sousa alley-oop dunk against Clemson in the Sweet 16. You and I both. We saw all of that.
We were there.
Right next to each other the entire time.
Wichita to Omaha to San Antonio that year.
Yeah.
And they can't take that away from me, and they really can't take that away from the players, the coaches, the fans who experienced it as well. That's all bookkeeping at the end of the day. I understand why you do it, but it's not anything worth losing a lot of sleep over. I just imagine that it probably feels really good to have it done. That whatever the punishment ended up being, that it's just over. It's not hanging out in the corner. It's not the elephant in the room. It's not what if, or you never know, this could happen. It's not something that. And it was interesting to hear Bill Self say that it hasn't affected them in recruiting recently.
Yeah.
Where maybe it did early on, but not recently so much. I thought that was interesting to hear him say that, because I would have thought that it would have been a negative all the way through, as coaches could have negatively recruited KU to prospective players based on that. But it's done. It's over with. All of this, from the FBI's involvement to the very last drop today, was such a waste of time and energy and resources, especially when the stuff we were all so up in arms about is stuff that's mostly legal now, thanks to NIL bylaws and NIL legislation.
Yeah.
And so Seth Davis, in his piece on The Messenger about it, called it the last great infractions case. Like the history of college sports is littered with those so-called infraction cases, impermissible benefits, things of that nature. And teams have lost scholarships and coaches have lost jobs. And in this particular case, people went to jail, real jail, not white collar jail, real prison over paying some kids to play basketball or giving some kids some money that could not otherwise have made money for the skill that they possess as a student athlete in the NCAA. It was all much ado about so little. And I think there is relief that it is over from the Kansas perspective. And it truly is. I think Seth Davis is right. It's kind of the end of an era in college sports. Like, we're not going to have stuff like this come up again because it's above board now.
Yeah. And I think too, when it comes to maybe recruiting hasn't been impacted as much recently. Now you factor the portal into that too, but like KU in the last couple of months added one of the best portal players ever in Hunter Dickinson to the roster. And you think Hunter Dickinson's coming to a program where he feels like maybe they're going down? Like you think he was going to pick somewhere that might not make the tournament, might not have a chance to win it all. KU just picked up this summer with Flory Badunga, the big man from Indiana, excuse me. He's top 5 recruit in program history. Like it has been a little while since that kind of player has come to Kansas, say for Grady Dick, but that's different. He grew up in Wichita and is a KU fan. That's a little bit different.
Right.
But I think that for everybody involved, and I think a couple of folks who asked questions today were asking about, what about the guys who were here? What about the guys who were here the last several years and all the questions they had to face? And I think it's got to be nice to know, especially if you make, like KJ Adams is going into year 3 with this program. Dwan Harris is going into year 5 with this program. Like knowing it's over. You don't have to worry about this. You don't have to hear about it anymore. I think that's a relief for players, coaches, and to be frank, fans and media members too, because I was very ready to be done with this. I think everybody was. We've got one more break to get to, then we'll come on back and wrap up this edition of 580 Sports Talk with the final word. final word.
You ever see the movie Burn After Reading?
Yes.
Coen Brothers classic.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the final scene of that movie today when the IARP ruling came down on KU. I think it's J.K. Simmons, the actor. He's in those insurance commercials now where he says, "What did we learn?" And the guy says, "I don't know." And he says, "Well, I don't bleep and know either. I guess we learned not to do it again, although I'm bleeped if I know what we did." And that's kind of how I feel about the end of the IARP's existence and the end of this 6-year FBI-related saga into college basketball. I don't know what we learned, but I guess we learned not to do it again, even if I don't know what it was.
Yeah, I think we learned overall that this was all a waste of everybody's time. And yeah, KU's got to face some punishments, but in the grand scheme of things going forward, because it's all about looking forward, right? It's all about what is next. What can we still go and accomplish? KU's got everything in front of them. And honestly, KU made out of this pretty darn well. And while I feel as though it's fair to say there were some things that were done improperly, there are some good reasons why fans of other programs might be upset. I'm here to tell you that I'm pretty dang excited about my Slammin' Jammin' Jayhawks. No postseason bans, no more scholarship limits beyond what was self-imposed. Heading into a year where we'll be #1 in the nation in the preseason poll in all likelihood. Feeling pretty good about being a KU fan today, all things considered. That does it for 580 Sports Talk. We got a jam-packed show coming up tomorrow from 2 until 6 ahead of Chiefs football. For Jake, for Dan, I'm Brendan. This has been 580 Sports Talk.